Hey everybody, welcome to the Friday 3D Printing Community Hangout. Tonight we're going to be talking about selecting the right material for the right application. Talking about why you would want to use, let's say, nylon carbon fiber versus polycarbonate or versus PLA. And tonight, to talk about that, we actually have somebody who specializes a bit in material science. We have Matt Gorton from Printed Solid joining us. He's going to answer some questions that were submitted ahead of time and also answer questions from the chat. So if you have questions throughout the stream of a project you're working on and you want to know what type of material would be best suited for that, Matt's definitely the one who's qualified to answer out of any of us. Tonight, myself and the rest of the co-hosts are basically in this just like you guys. We're going to keep the conversation going, but we're probably going to have our own questions as well for projects that we have coming up or that we're even working on now. And throughout the night, we'll probably come up with some additional questions on top of what other people ask in the chat. So we're going to keep an eye on the chat. Be sure to type them in there. Going forward for the Friday night hangouts, we're always going to have that question form ahead of time. So going forward, you'll be able to enter your questions for the topic at hand for that week. So let's go ahead and do introductions, and we'll start with Martin.
Yeah, hi, I'm Marteinn, and I have a YouTube channel called 3DP Iceland, and I'm on Twitter as 3DP Iceland, as stated here on a t-shirt. I do a little bit of everything: filament testing and landscape printing, and paint the landscapes with acrylics, print out all kind of objects. I'm doing a filament review now with the Prusa mint filament and testing out that filament, and I do projects on my printers and printed this guy. It's quite a big one, 350 millimeter high on the CR10. So that's me.
All right, Chris, go ahead.
Hey everybody, Chris here. You probably know me most familiar with at mcrispy1 on Twitter. One of the co-founders for Earth, regular 3D printing guy as of late. I've gotten into printing things big, and I'm interested in printing them big for outdoor uses. So that's one of the questions I have coming to Matt tonight. What materials should I be printing in to print and leave things outdoors all year long?
All right, thanks, Chris. Matt, go ahead. And so everybody knows, because Matt is coming on as our guest to answer these questions tonight, I did give him, told him to go ahead for a little bit here during his intro to represent Printed Solid and MakerBox, both of which are his companies that he founded or is co-owner of. So go ahead, Matt.
All right, great. Yeah, thanks for having me on. Yeah, so my name's Matt. I'm the founder of printedsolid.com and co-owner now. I have David Rare as a co-owner, so the two of us kind of run the company. And I started doing this, it's like 7 years ago now, and kind of just got into it just as a hobby, as an engineer. What I do, what I was doing from my day job, and kind of moved into more like a management position, and so I wasn't doing anything creative anymore. So when I discovered desktop 3D printing, it was a great outlet. So I do kind of engineering like work in my free time, and so I've been working.
You might need to pause the YouTube stream. You're getting all garbled up, like your connection's dropping.
That's not. I don't have the YouTube stream on at all.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Just doing it for you guys, Martin and Chris.
Yeah, it's the same for me. It's sounded like garbled.
Yeah.
Like
Go ahead and try it again.
Well, that's not good.
You sound fine now. So go ahead and try again.
All right. I'll just keep going. Yeah, so I worked in different engineering positions in polymer companies. A lot of background in working with polymers. Good, I see you making a face now.
It's doing it again. Just go ahead and roll with it.
All right, YouTube Live, I guess. I can try switching to a different network. Let me see 5G and see if that's better.
Yeah, go ahead. Give that a try. You might have to end up rejoining though once you switch.
Yeah, I think I will. All right, let me try that.
Okay. While Matt does that, I'll go ahead and do a little bit of updates on the Friday night hangout. We have a calendar now, which let's see if this actually works. See if Nightbot actually works tonight. Looks like it's not going to. The Friday night hangouts. Oh, there it goes. Has a calendar. Nightbot just posted the link in the chat that you can now go and you can subscribe to, and it will add it to your calendar on your mobile device or on your computer. So we have the calendar, and for those of you who have hosted, co-hosted, or are interested in hosting and co-hosting, you'll be able to RSVP now to the event, so we can kind of see who's going to be attending the stream and get an idea. It also will allow everybody to easily remember which night is the EU stream and which night is the US stream. I'm reading the chat. You guys are nuts. There we go. So I keep forgetting to switch it. Sorry, Chris. I had it locked on Marteinn during your entire introduction.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have the calendar, and there's also going with each of the streams now. We're going to be doing this form that you can go on and post your questions for the stream, which I talked about a little bit at the beginning. The other thing that we're going to be doing is I'm going to start another form that's just going to be a never-ending survey about what topics you'd like to see us discuss, and even more specifically, guests that you'd like to see us bring on. So that's some of the things that we're doing right now. T-shirts, I'm looking into a lower cost solution to the T-shirts, and they'll probably be up, I'd say, within the next month or so. I'm actually going to be doing them in-house so that I don't have to pay somebody else to do them, which will lower the price a bit. And Matt dropped off, so hopefully he'll be joining back in here in a second.
Yeah. You need to get the wired up.
For those of you who don't know, I'll tell you what, I'll do this in the chat a while. Printed Solid is doing now through, I believe, Black Friday. Dave Randolph's in the chat. He can confirm yes or no for me. They are giving away a $100 gift card to Printed Solid every day from now, like I said, till I think Black Friday, which is a week from now. There's a link in the chat, so you guys can go ahead and enter if you haven't already entered. And while Matt's sorting out his internet issues, if you get entered, you'll have a chance to win the drawing that Matt's actually going to do tonight, right after his introduction. And Dave did just say, yes, it is till Black Friday. Every day, enter every day for a chance.
Yeah, okay, so people can enter each day. Yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah, I think you can get an extra entry per day, plus you can do referrals, tweeting it out, all that kind of stuff. So be sure to enter it. Matt told me there's somewhere around 300 people in the entries now. Hey, you're back.
Yeah, is this better?
So far. Go ahead and if you want to just start over with your intro, Matt, because a lot of it didn't come through. So
Okay.
Floor's all yours.
All right. Yeah, I'm kind of in an awkward. I'm sitting like right next to the router now, and in my daughter's little chair. So yeah, my name's Matt Gorton. I'm the founder of Printed Solid and the co-owner now with my partner David Randolph, who partnered up with me and with lasers. Is this better? Can you hear me now? All right, I'll keep going then. Yeah, so I started Printed Solid about 6 years ago. You know, I kind of came across that 3D printing and background in mechanical engineering and you know, concentrating in materials engineering, and been working in you know, companies doing polymer companies. So spent a lot of time around extrusion processes and you know, different types of polymer processing technology. And so, you know, when I got into 3D printing, I found that, you know, all of that was kind of relevant, and it helped me to kind of understand what was going on in the printing process. And you know, it was really interesting as, you know, I moved on and more and more materials were available, and yeah, kind of just started Printed Solid to make things kind of interesting, you know, focused materials available to people. We opened a store like 3 years ago, and yeah, things have just kind of been going along since then. About, I guess this is almost 2 years ago now, we partnered up with MakerBox. So, you know, a friend of mine in the community was doing a subscription filament service where every month we would send out 4 different filament samples to people, and that really resonated with me because it was a way to introduce people to different materials and let them try them, and, you know, buy the ones they like, not buy the ones that were no good. And you know, 4 or 5 months ago now, Printed Solid bought that, and you know, now we keep doing that. So it's just a way to spread awareness of different materials. So,
Hey, Matt.
Yeah.
Try to disable your video.
Okay.
Just go audio only for a little bit. See if that makes it any better.
Okay.
You were coming across, you were legible, but yeah, it was giving you
sludgy.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it better now with the camera off?
Yeah, so far it actually sounds clearer. Go ahead and keep running with it.
Okay, yeah, actually Dave is also telling me to mute the video and told me I should get my new computer instead of my old one. But all right, so yeah, so we wanted to do a drawing for Printed Solid for a $100 gift card. So I'm going to go ahead and log on and do that, and then we can kind of get to the questions and the conversation. I'm happy that I'm not on video. All right.
Yeah, the audio was still a little bit off.
Really? You still can't hear me? Man.
Actually, I'll tell you what, when you get louder, it gets clear. But for some reason, as you
maybe
talk,
I just need to be loud. Maybe there's like stuff in my microphone or something.
Yeah, because actually that sounds really good.
All right, I'll just try to talk louder then.
So you said you're going ahead with the drawing tonight's giveaway winner?
Yeah, yep. Yeah, so give me 1 minute to log in here.
All right.
Yeah, you probably can turn on the video as well. Just
I'm just going to find the just going to do the drawing now. I just have to log into the system. All right, so it's all set, and I'm going to go ahead and draw a winner. Oh, okay, so this is Bear 3DP, which is a customer that's relatively local to us. I believe Mike is his name. I don't know if he's on the stream.
What?
Bear's Garage.
Bear, like the animal bear?
Yeah, except it's BAE instead of BEA.
Bear's Garage, you said.
Yeah, I don't know if he does the community hangout things, but I recognize the name.
All right, well, I threw his name in the chat, and I haven't seen that name in YouTube or on the channel, but
I'm sure he'll be just as happy anyways.
Congratulations.
Yep. All right. So should I try to answer some of the questions?
Sure. Yeah, we can start off with the questions that were submitted ahead of time. Everybody who's in the chat, if you have questions, go ahead and start asking. Different projects you're working on, what types of materials would be better, or if you're trying to decide between two materials, go ahead and start posting that stuff in the chat, and I'll keep an eye on it and try to get all the questions answered after Matt does the pre-stream questions that were already asked of him.
Yeah. So I'm going to start out with Chris's question. So Chris's question is, he's got a project that needs to be outdoors over a prolonged period of time. What's a good choice for that? So, knowing what Chris's project is, he's making lawn sculptures. It's decorative. It doesn't need to be structural. So, it gives us a little bit more in the way of options. Generally outside, you need something that's going to have some UV resistance. You need something that's either engineered to withstand UV, or you need something that has stuff in it that blocks UV. So, as far as materials that are in our filament arsenal, now there's lots and lots of polymers in the world, but we only have, maybe 100 different materials tools in filament form. So, kind of a first easy go-to is going to be ASA that has UV stabilizers. But then when you get into those big parts, you're going to run into trouble with warping. So you would need to print them in much smaller parts. Then, your next go-to, if you say the ASA is not feasible, ideally you're going to want to go to something that has a fill in it. So, carbon fiber is going to block, it's going to block the UV. So that's a lot of times carbon fiber filled materials are used for that purpose of being used outdoors because of the UV blocking. So those are two options in an ideal world. And I know what you're actually doing is you're doing different kinds of materials and different kinds of coating, and I think that's a lot cooler. So yeah, I mean, you've got what would someone pick if they were making a product? And then you have what are you actually going to do if you're a 3D printer and you want to try different things? And I think both of those approaches are good. Good answer, Chris.
Yeah, no, that's good. I haven't worked with ASA very much. The next material I was planning on using was probably going to be PETG because I have some familiarity with it. And I know it at least brings me up to a higher melt point. But that's what I was looking at next.
Yeah, generally, anything, most of the materials we have available, UV is pretty rough on polymers. So, the PETGs are going to hold up to the temperature, but not so much to the UV. And if you have it coated with things that are blocking the UV, you're probably going to be fine.
Okay. Yeah, no, probably be blocked with primer and spray paint.
Good.
Chris, do you want to talk about the testing that you're doing with the graphite spray real quick, as far as like a protectant for heat?
Yeah. So the and this comes from Brian Stofiel, Stofiel Aerospace, but he's worked with using graphite in a can. It's actually a graphite spray lubricant. I actually have here. Hold on real quick. Yeah, that close. This stuff right here. So after doing the prints, joining the prints together, this was the first treatment that the prints received. So this is a graphite dry lubricant. And Brian told me basically just soak the print with this stuff. It's alcohol based. It'll help the graphite penetrate, and then the alcohol will just evaporate off. And that's what it did. And the idea is the graphite gives it a skin that I guess helps transfer the heat, keeps the heat from localizing on any one area, if I'm understanding the science right behind it, and giving it kind of like a thermal protection. So the big moai has been made with or put together with this, and then it was primed and painted over. And yeah, that was the interesting question. Will paint stick to this stuff because it's a lubricant by nature? For now, it is. We'll find out after we go through some heat and cold cycles, as Matt pointed out to me. When it gets hot, gets cold, goes through some contraction, expansion. If the paint still sticks, well, that'll be interesting. So a little bit of science going on, trying to figure some of this stuff out.
Matt, through Printed Solid and your dealings with your customers, have you heard of anybody else doing much like this? Obviously, Brian Stoffel is using it with his rockets. Have you heard of many other people kind of experimenting with coatings to put on, like graphite or graphite, graphene, dry moly, anything like that?
No, I mean the only coatings we really hear people talking about are the epoxy coatings for food safe or smoothing type applications.
Okay. And Chris's tiki is right behind him. I kind of see it every now and then when he moves. Yeah, there you go. So outside prints, Matt, if you're going to print something that's going outside, your recommendation is something like ASA or you said PET, PETG would be good for the temperatures, but not so much for UV, correct?
Yeah, I mean, for UV, you need to have something that's going to block the UV. So, if you kind of do research into what people are doing for industrial type things, there's some kind of a modifier to block the UV, or I mean, your parts, just won't last that long, which is the BAK too. Yeah, I mean, that's for within our toolbox, we're looking at ASA being the best option. Without getting too expensive or challenging, and then you start to look at the carbon fiber fills as well. I mean, anything's going to work.
What was that?
It's just well, I mean, anything's going to work. It's just a matter of how long is it going to last.
What material would you recommend out of any of them for long-term UV exposure?
I mean, that's what ASA is for.
ASA?
Yeah.
Okay, we have another question. Do you want to just go right down the line of the questions that were submitted previously?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. The next one then that we have was from Kathy O'Malley. She was asking, why do some filaments get wrapped in cling wrap? A piece of cling wrap stuck in my printer nozzle and has caused me problems and money. So I think she's referring to some of them come in a sealed bag, vacuum sealed bag. Others just come wrapped up in cellophane.
Well, and a lot of them will have both. So I think the primary purpose of the cellophane is for shipping. So, to keep your coil nice and tight during shipping. And it is very effective at doing that. But, anything where you're putting stuff on the filament is not really a great thing. I've seen a lot of samples handed out where packaging tape has actually been used rather than like a zip tie or a twist tie. Packaging tape has been used. In fact, cleaning filament. I think even now, the cleaning filament that we have, the eSun cleaning filament that we sell, ironically comes with wraps of packaging tape around it. So you really want to clip the filament away from that packaging tape so it doesn't put packaging tape through your hot end. I don't know why. It's just for packaging or shipping protection.
All right. The next one that we've got is, this is from Jake from State Farm, which he is in the chat. He asked if you can share some advice on minimizing the Z-seam artifacts when using silk-like filaments. I'm not seeing zits or blobs. It's more of a light discoloration wherever there's a layer change. Most noticeable on round surfaces because obviously there's no sharp edge to hide the seam.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is just one of the features of the silk filaments is, the way it reflects the light and looks really cool when you have a good print. It does tend to accentuate your seam. And so, the best option is to really just select a seam option where it does have the seam on one place and you can have that kind of away from where you're looking. It's, there's things you can do. You can mess around with your extrusion ratio. You could maybe tweak coasting, things like that, but it's really not a filament that's very good at hiding seams.
All right, and the last pre-submitted question that we have, which I think we all know who this is when I say it, is from Dave the Magnificent. What is the prettiest filament out there? And I'm pretty sure Dave the Magnificent is Dave Randolph.
Yeah, so I'm gonna do a dodge kind of an answer, and I'll say when people come into our showroom, the filament that attracts the most attention is the polyalchemy elixir. We have there's lots of really pretty filaments out there. Everyone's doing the kind of the glitter fill type things. I think those look really nice too. The protopasta glitter flake is really great. But I think those filaments of being very pretty in the terms of hiding the layer lines, whereas the polyalchemy elixir just sort of is just flat out very pretty looking.
Give me 1 second. I got an actuator driving on my furnace and it's loud.
Well, hey,
yeah, sorry.
I was saying, while you have that going, I saw a really good question in the room. It's from Paul. Paul just saw you the other night. Good to see you on here. His question is, why haven't we seen truly fluorescent filament yet? Fluorescing is pretty cheap and doesn't degrade till about 300 C. Seems like a pretty simple additive. Any thoughts?
I think that we have. I think that someone has launched a filament like that, and maybe it's not a filament company, because I've been asked about that at events, and I've had people come in and say, hey, I had this fluorescing filament. Who did it come from? And I never knew the answer to that, but I think such a thing has existed, but I don't think it's from any company that's really made the long run of it. I mean, ultimately, the companies that are making filament are in business, and they're choosing, what to use to make filament with based on what they think will make money. So that's the answer. What do the filament manufacturers think is going to sell?
So, okay, this is one of my questions that I had, and I know we talked about this at one of the Printed Solid meetups back in the summer. And one of the things, discussions they had, which actually kind of spawned the thought of this stream, was material types and what's better to use. One of the things I remember us talking about there, Matt, was like the filaments that have the additives, so the carbon fiber, not the nylon with the glass fill in it, stuff like that. What if you compare? Let's use PLA. If you compare PLA versus PLA with carbon fiber in it, what does that do to the properties of PLA? Does it hurt the properties of the PLA in any way, as far as the strength, layer bonding, things like that?
So it depends on what properties you're interested in. It changes the properties. The one that people always talk about when we talk about carbon fiber, I guess the two, right? So people talk about strength and they talk about weight. The specific gravity of the carbon fiber is not that drastically different than the plastics we're using anyways. So really you're not reducing the weight much. And the strength, as far as the strength goes, there's lots of different aspects of strength. You have impact strength from, how well the material can, withstand striking load. And you've got just straight tensile strength, which is if you take the material and pull on it, how much force can you put before it breaks. Different aspects there. But generally, when you add the carbon fiber in, you're not really improving those aspects of strength. Maybe sometimes you're improving the tensile strength a little bit, but you're almost always reducing the impact strength. But what you are doing mechanically that's important is you are increasing the stiffness. So, if you take an object that's printed in PLA and try to bend it, and then take that same object printed in a carbon fiber filled PLA and try to bend it, it's going to take more force to bend it the same amount, which can be useful for structural applications, just as long as you're below the force where it's going to break.
Okay. We had a question in the chat. I'm not sure if this was just a Lightspeed just saw it and was asking in the chat, but Matt, you might have an idea. Apparently Filament was removed from Filament One's website. Do you know anything about that?
I
thought
I can't imagine that that's going to be a long-term thing. I mean, that's their business.
Yeah, I thought that Filament One and Filamentum were one and the same.
Yeah, I don't think they're one and the same, but I think there's a very close relationship.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, now they have the Filament One PLA Pro listed under PLA filaments, so their own brand.
I wonder if they're just maybe rebranding Filamentum for the States, because Filament One is stateside and Filamentum is over in the EU, correct?
Yeah.
I wonder if maybe they're
just... I would just wait a couple days and see what happens there. I don't want to comment on anyone else's business, but that would be shocking to me.
Yeah. All right. Next question from 3D Gusner. What do you think of I think he's talking about the polypropylene filament that CNC Kitchen reviewed. Now, maybe not just that, but what would be some good applications for polypropylene? And I know from the MakerBox sample that we had gotten a while back, it's a tougher one to print as well.
Yeah, polypropylene is more challenging. I mean, it's kind of like you take the more challenging aspects of an ABS and the more challenging aspects of NinjaFlex and then put them together into one filament. So, it has a very high tendency to warp. It's hard to get to adhere to a lot of surfaces. And then when you find a surface that it adheres to, it's very hard to get it to come off of that surface. Yeah, so it is kind of challenging to print with. But I mean, as far as applications go, it's a good flexible filament. It's not like in a rubbery way. It's in like a milk bottle kind of way. And it's very chemical resistant. You can get very good layer bonding. So, Ultimaker, when they use their example as like an eyedropper thing, it would be easy to make watertight, almost impossible to break, and then you can tear it. Its tensile strength isn't that high. But, it's like NinjaFlex. You can bend it all you want, but you're not going to actually break it. Yeah, in my mind, polypropylene, what's really important there is the chemical resistance, the flexibility, and the ability to get good layer bonding.
All right.
Yeah, I had a struggle with that sample when it came. I remember it.
Yeah, I mean, that's just as an aside, that's kind of the point of MakerBox is there's all these things out there. There's things that you probably would never go off on your own and buy a spool of something that you have no idea what you're possibly going to do with. But a sample of it to play with works.
Yeah, it's good fun to get sometimes filament that you really just have no way of making work.
Yeah.
and you spend all the samples and you really start to read up on it, and then the samples are gone. And
yeah, that is the hard part.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what? Let's give you a little bit of a chance to talk about that, Matt, if you want to. There's some changes coming to MakerBox, is there not?
Yeah. I guess we could announce it here. I mean, I've announced it on the website and we sent out a mailer, so I guess it makes sense. Yeah, so MakerBox, you know, historically for 2+ years has been 4 samples with the idea of being an explorer's box. And now we've said, well, why don't we make it an explorer's box, and why don't we make a box for people that don't want to be explorers? Because we do get that customer feedback a lot. So we're going to have 2 boxes now. So there's going to be the explorer's box, and then there's going to be the easy box. And if you want to get everything in both, you can do the everything box. Explorer's box will kind of continue to be box has been. The easy box will just be a box of PLA or PLA-like materials where you just get 4 different colors, and then the everything box will be everything. So that'll be available probably in a couple weeks.
Yeah, okay, so the everything box will contain the 4 samples of the different materials and 4 samples of the PLA chosen for the easy box.
Exactly. Yeah, the everything box will have 8 samples.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
We had a question while you were answering that, or I might have missed it prior to that. Paul asked another question, hopefully not too technical, but just curious, does the average molecular weight of a starting polymer chain, of the starting polymer chains in filament pellets significantly change properties? Sorry, I'm having a hell of a time reading tonight.
So yeah, I mean, so that's a differentiator type question of what sets, you know, you buy filament from 15 different suppliers, what sets supplier 1 apart from supplier 2, and a lot of that is how the material is handled during processing. So, you know, your molecular weight of the pellets, so molecular weight is like, if you think of a polymer as being spaghetti, which is what people talk about polymers as being like a lot of the time, molecular weight is how long those spaghetti strands are. And every time you run that polymer through a thermal process, so like when we melt it in our extruder or when our filament manufacturer melts it down to extrude it out into filament, those spaghetti strands get broken apart and they become shorter. You want them to be really long. And so, yeah, when you run it through that, maybe your second melt cycle or third melt cycle when it's extruded into filament, if it's not dried well before that process, if the drying is done at too high of a temperature, if it's extruded too hot or speeds, too much energy, things like that, yeah, that can break up those chains. And so that's one of the reasons why we have, you know, supplier A and supplier B, who both say, yeah, we have the same NatureWorks PLA going into it. I mean, all of our Chinese filaments has the same NatureWorks PLA, and they're not all the same. And so that's a big part of why is, you know, how much is it cut down with a master batch? How well was it dried? How hot was the process? You know, how well was it treated? So it's a good question. I mean, short answer is yes. The molecular weight will change.
Yes. So the polymers they break apart when you heat it up and extrude the filament from the pellets that you buy. So if you extrude your filament with a different temperature and speed, it will give a different result than a different manufacturer that extrudes at another temperature.
Yeah, exactly. Just like if you print a part and you printed it 195 or you're printed at 215 or 230, depending on, you know, we talk about moisture in our filaments affecting things. Where it really matters more is it's that sort of moisture / heat combination that kind of breaks things down more. But yeah, just, you know, the manufacturer, their processing conditions matter just as much as you know, your processing conditions when you're printing your part.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
Hey, Matt, I'm not sure if you're going to answer this one or not, but question in the room from Brian. He's wondering who your OEM is for the printed solid daily.
Oh, yeah, I can't say.
I was going to say the answer comes to mind. Dave put it up in the room earlier, Matt. He was telling you, you know what the snitches get, Matt.
I've heard about that.
This stream's confusing. We have too many Matts.
Yeah.
So I had another question for you, Matt, as far as a specific use for filament or a 3D print. If I was going to print something in gears, print gears out of something that are turning at a relatively high speed and are subject to a lot of force that they have to turn, a lot of friction. What would be a good filament to use for something like that?
So I would go with a really good nylon. Generally, you have, nylon, it can kind of distribute loads a little bit better because it's a little bit more ductile. And it's sort of kind of self-lubricating. It's, the coefficient of friction is relatively low. So, it's a good choice there. Nylon's often pointed to as being a good choice for gears amongst the materials that we have to choose from. I think when higher temperature materials start to become more printable in our machines, is our kind of next generation of machines with hotter build plates and heated enclosures and water-cooled hot ends kind of comes online. I think Delrin is going to be a great choice there, but for right now, it's nylon.
All right. Any advantage to the carbon fiber nylons and glass-filled nylons as opposed to standard nylon if you want something? Because I know with what I've printed with nylon, nylon has some flex to it and some give. And if you have something that you're going to need, say, rigid gear teeth on it, especially finer teeth, would something like the carbon fibers or the glass-filled nylon be better than just standard nylon?
So I'm going to say probably not. And the reason being that, the material's abrasive, so you don't want your teeth breaking either. But there are nylons that are fairly stiff that come out now. We've seen the Stix nylon, the Nylon 6 that we had from Form Futura in the maker box, like 6 months or something like that. The always popular, the Coleman 910 is a relatively stiff nylon. It's very expensive, but now we're chemical companies getting into the game. So DuPont, who invented nylon, they have their material, and that stuff is just really great. I've got some examples in the shop, and it's it's kind of a game changer for nylon. I mean, if it was cheaper, it would be, but now for people looking for higher end applications, it's a great choice.
All right, Chris, did you have another question from the chat?
I had a follow-up to your question, Matt, for Matt. Matt, I know it might be tough for you to pick one, but is there a particular nylon that you really like for the application that Matt was asking about, particularly thinking like RC car gearbox type thing is kind of my slant on it?
I mean, right now, the Tallman 910 is a really great choice. If you're willing to spend I think the Tallman 910 is kind of, our go-to standard, but I think that's if you're willing to spend a little bit more, it's a pretty awesome choice.
Okay. And then, yes, Matt, there is also a question from the room. 3D Gustner is asking, what humidity is good to print PLA, ABS, and nylon? I have mine in sealed IKEA boxes around 16 to 20% and print from them.
Yeah, I mean, if you look up specs for filament extrusion, this, like the kind of, like living atmosphere kind of humidities, it's way too high. So, I mean, anything that we're doing is way higher than anything should be extruded at. So, I mean, it's just the nature of how 3D printing is. If you really want your absolute best performance, then you're going to want a really well-sealed dry box. But I mean, most of, commercial processing, you've got it down to whatever super low dew point, just incredibly dry. But I mean, for most of what we're doing, set it to where you're getting good results. I mean, we don't, in the shop, when we do printing, we kind of store our filament just around. However, when we have really critical applications, I'm going to desiccate it overnight in the dry box, and those are the tools we have at our disposal. If you have access to like a commercial drying oven, then yeah, that's great. But for most of us, it's just not attainable.
Yeah, I have one question about PLA and how long it will actually last. Like, I have printed my landscapes, and I've been giving those away and selling some of them. And I asked how long will it keep its shape, or because what I've heard, PLA will get brittle over time. But how long could I expect this to hold shape, so to speak, as a final product?
I mean, for a decorative part, it's fine. It's going to be fine forever. If you're making that for a kid and they were throwing it around like a frisbee, then in a couple of years, it's going to start to be, all of a sudden it's going to land and it's going to land in pieces. But for a decorative piece, it's fine. You're never going to have problems.
Yeah, so it becomes more brittle, but it won't like degrade.
Right, it's not going to start falling to pieces without an external force. What more brittle means is that if you're hitting it, it's going to break, more easily, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, because I'm hoping after 100 years, when I'm dead and famous, and this will be valuable to somebody.
I'm sure it will be.
But I don't want it to degrade in 10 years and just.
Yeah, that's our PLA material will degrade in the right conditions. You need some heat, you need some moisture, you need bacteria attacking it. You're not going to have those conditions hanging on someone's wall. You're safe. It'll be there in 100 years.
Yeah, cool.
Martin, you got to work on your print shredder in the middle and build into your prints now, so that way you can make sure you self-destruct.
Yeah, so they'll go down and yeah.
Make sure they go the whole way through.
Yeah, that'll be something.
NLTMW Mike in the chat asked, what would be recommended for an object which has to be strong and will be used underwater, fresh or salt water? Maybe give an answer for both of those if there's a different answer, Matt. And he said probably cold water at various depths. And then I did ask a follow-up to that. I'll just let you answer both ways, Matt. He said it has to be really strong. I'm not sure if he's talking because of at depth having water pressure on it, or if it's under force, strain, if it's static loaded, or if it's actually going to be under some kind of stress besides just the pressure around it. So maybe there's 4 answers to that question. Let's start with, we'll split it up.
Okay.
Filaments that are good under fresh water. Let's start there.
Yeah, so I mean, that's going to be, so nylon's going to lose stiffness underwater, or some of our nylons, but aside from that, and then the PLA is going to break down more readily underwater. But aside from that, pretty much anything we have is going to be fine. Maybe fresh water, it's not a big deal.
Is there any differentiation that you would see with salt water? Anything that would be better or worse with salt versus fresh?
I mean, we're not, so with metals, yes, there's different kind of corrosion mechanisms, but I'm not sure that it matters that much with the plastics. I could be wrong. But yeah, I don't think it, if you talk about like a bottle of saline, You know, I just don't think it's that something that's a big problem for plastics. So salt versus fresh, I don't think it matters that much.
All right. And as far as the strength of it goes, like if what Mike's talking about is the pressure, I have a feeling he's talking diving applications. If you are diving to a decent depth where you have pressures affecting a part, that's more in the way you print it probably than the material for the most part, right?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, for whatever reason, my thought on that, you know, when you're asking about those materials, I'm thinking probably something like a polycarbonate, or going totally the opposite direction, just totally looking for water tightness. Maybe that is a place where polypropylene is more useful. But my first thought was definitely probably polycarbonate.
Polycarbonate. And polycarbonate would be fine whether it's static loaded or if it's actually under some strain, because of its strength properties, right?
Well, I mean, so our polycarbonate filaments, the Polymax, the PC Max, the Polymaker PC Max, tends to hold up pretty well to impact loading. So you would just need to be, if it is something that is going to be impact loading versus, just needing to hold up to a lot of pressure, I would be careful about your solution. So, if you're impact loading, I would stay away from kind of the things that are just generically labeled as polycarbonate, and I would look for something that's modified for toughness, like the PC Max.
Okay. Chris or Martin, did you guys see anything else in the chat while I was paying attention to Matt?
No, not that I noticed. People are asking about fluorescent additives.
Paul really wants his fluorescent additive.
Yeah.
So we got to get, the people that you had on the stream last week or 2 weeks ago, you have to get them on the stream to ask about fluorescent additives. They're the ones making the filaments.
Yeah, they're bugging Sean in the from IC3D in the chat right now, trying to convince him to run some through the line at IC3D.
Yeah, this is one you need Alex on the call for, I think.
Yeah, there you go, Paul. You got to reach out to Alex. Sean sent me a DM. I'll have to check that in a minute, Sean.
Yeah, isn't the fluorescent, that's the light in the dark filaments that light up with the UV light?
Yeah,
that's what I was. Yeah, I was gonna say that's what I was taking from it.
Yeah.
So, just a question on that, Matt. If just like the glass fill, the glow in the dark, extremely abrasive. If there were a fluorescent filament with the fluorescence pieces in it, would that be abrasive, do you think, or not?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not familiar with those materials at all.
Okay.
It's worth thinking about that, though, because we talk about how damaging the abrasive materials can be to our hot end and sometimes our extruder gears. The same is true for the filament manufacturers, except their equipment's a lot more expensive. So maybe that's a contributing factor as well.
All right, Sean's gonna join in as well. He was asking.
Yeah. David asked if pigment affected any properties, but I want to comment on that one. I did a break test with different colors of filament from the same manufacturer, and I found some colors to be stronger in the break test than others from the same manufacturer. It was AAO Robotics, a 12-pack with 12 different colors, and some in my testing, color affected the strength.
Yeah, I mean, color is an additive, so anything that you're putting into a material is going to affect properties. My guess is that if we're seeing within one manufacturer differences from one color to the next, my guess is if you bought 50 spools from 50 different extrusion lots, you would find that doesn't hold up statistically. I could be wrong, but you know, knowing how we're making things, how they're making things, I would think that the noise would be more significant than, you know, the actual result. I know that color in the lack thereof can affect properties, though.
Paul said that the fluorescents are small organic molecules, more like dyes, so they most likely wouldn't be abrasive. I'm not sure if anybody else said that on the stream or not. Oh, okay. I got a question for you, Matt. And this may not be as much a material science thing. I asked this last time on the US stream from Protopasta, the conductive filaments that are out there. What, more so from like your customers and people who've purchased it from you, what's some of the things that you've seen, some of the uses, practical uses of the conductive filament? We all know the resistance is high on it. The further you go, the higher the resistance. So really the less voltage you're going to put across it. But what's some actual practical applications of that you've seen besides just lighting up an LED or something like that?
Yeah, so I mean, one is going to be ESD protection, so static dissipative type thing, so not necessarily purely for the purpose of conducting a signal, but just sort of, you know, dissipating some of that static. So that's very useful in just making tooling. Like a lot of in 3D printing in general right now, a lot of the applications that Dave and I are seeing from our customers are just not particularly interesting to everybody in a discussion like this, but they're very useful for companies. So, you know, making jigs and fixtures, you know, not really end use production. Now the open, they were next to us at Maker Fair like 3 years ago. I think it's the Open BCI, it's like a neural interface thing. And they're doing a lot of 3D printed parts. Maybe someone in the chat who's on you know, can Google it. I'm pretty sure it's Open BCI or something like that, and they are using a lot of conductive filaments. But I mean, we haven't heard a ton of customers talking about using conductive filament in real practical applications. That's not one that we get a lot of buys from our corporate customers.
Open BCI.
I maybe I have the letters wrong.
All-in-one bio. Okay, not sure if this is it or not. All-in-one biosensing R&D bundle is what came up on Google. Oh, that's an ad. Yeah, biosensing tools.
That is what it is.
Yep, that's it. Here, I'll post the link in the chat for anybody who's interested in it.
Yep, that's definitely it.
OpenBCI.com.
That's probably the most interesting application I've seen of conductive filaments.
Yeah, just kind of glancing over that website, that actually looks pretty neat. It's an actual use for the conductives. I've had a sample that I think I bought from you the very first time I was down at Print Solid, and I printed a battery tester, and that was about it. They haven't found something to do, so I'm always looking to see what people are coming up with for those kind of exotic filaments.
Yeah, if you think, I thought it was interesting when you know, Mike from Ninja Flex was at our meetup last week and had the conductive filament that he was showing off. And you know, a lot of the responses on Twitter were, "Hey, a wire is flexible and conductive as well." So I don't know. I'll have to see what people can do with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I get what everybody was. Sorry. Everybody's saying about that. Try printing a small trace like that for wire, though, in your print, and actually getting a wire fish through it the whole way and not getting stuck.
Right.
Go ahead. You guys can talk until this knocks it off.
Hey, what's up, Sean? Can't hear you, Sean.
No audio, Sean. Didn't you have this problem the last time? we still can't hear you, Sean. All right, we'll let him get that sorted out. Okay, I got to get the chat back up again. I was looking at that website.
See Mitch from the room. Any questions tonight, Mitch?
Yeah, Mitch would be the one I would expect to have material science questions from.
I have one question about like copper fill and bronze fill and those metallic fills. Are there any practical uses for them except just visuals where you polish them up and do you get any mechanical properties that you would desire in some practical application?
So, I mean, the only mechanical property you would get, and I guess this is a physical property, not a mechanical property, but the density. So you have parts that are higher density. That's valuable. But then you do get some electrical properties. We have customers, and I haven't seen their applications, but we definitely have people that are using it for some kind of electrical shielding, something like that. So it can be used for functional purposes. But I think most people are using it for the aesthetic type applications.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense with like I got a copper fill and it's really heavy filament.
I can tell you one thing about the copper fill. After about 800 grit, it doesn't really matter anymore.
I'll tell you about copper fill.
What was that?
Yeah.
Oh, you can hear me?
We can hear you. I used the copper fill to make a beer tap handle for one of the guys at my work who lifetime plumber retiring, and he wants to build a kegerator out of a freezer. And I printed his tap handle, one of the full-size tap handles, out of all copper fill, and polished that thing as much as I possibly could. And I went to 3,000 or 4,000 grit. After 8, it never really made any difference. So if you want to polish it, don't bother going over that. Sean, go ahead and do a quick intro.
Hello, everybody. If you can hear me, if you can see me, you're doing better than I am. So my name is Sean. I work at IC3D. I also do my own side thing on the side with my YouTube channel and whatnot. But yeah, I am an extrusion operator. I am the community manager, and I just love making plastic, actually. I love making plastic more than I like printing with it, if that makes any sense. So yeah, that's me. Hi.
Do you have any questions about material uses, Sean?
I do. Matt, what is a good material for a high temperature? Well, let's say I want to put 0.1, 0.2 ohms through it. What is a good material that can take heat, but can also, you know, be functional as well, strong and pliable?
You're gonna. What do you mean by putting 0.1, 0.2 ohms through it? You're looking for a conductive material too?
Yeah, like a material that can take, you know, high temperatures. That high voltage can create.
Okay. So you're talking about something that's going to be around. Yeah. I mean, it just depends on what those temperatures are. I think as far as what we can use readily, you know, we've got the polycarbonates and then some of the nylon blends. It can kind of do like 120-ish. And then beyond there, we need to get into some of the, you know, more exotic filaments that our printers have trouble using, like, you know, the peaks and the Altems.
Okay. Yeah, because I was thinking about peak and Altem and, you know, those high temperature heat absorbent materials. But I was just wondering, because I've been seeing a lot of people trying to use things inside their engine bay, you know, in their vehicle. and people trying to put heat through plastic. And I was just trying to figure out, if other people have that experience, what is the best material that will absorb the most heat without deformity or fires, or, that is readily available to hobbyists and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of our next generation. I think that's what we're going to be seeing in the next, say, maybe 3 years, as we get better hot ends and the Stratasys patents around the enclosures expire, and we get better heated beds. We're just not. I think we're close. The materials we're able to use right now, I think, are limited by the equipment that we're able to put through. So we next step in machines before we do the next step in materials.
Okay. So you don't think it's the opposite way around? You don't think that the materials are pushing what equipment we need to use the materials? You think it's the equipment that dictates what materials that we need?
No, I think the equipment dictates what materials we can use. So, machine developers know that people want, and people that sell machine stuff know that people want to print higher temp. I get people asking me all the time, I want to print these higher temperature materials. What can you recommend for peak? What can you recommend for Ultem? And there are a couple companies out there selling machines that are able to do those things, but we don't really see a lot of people posting their results, and I don't think that's a coincidence. I think the use of those is experimental right now, but that's the way our industry works. Those things are experimental, and then the commercial side catches up to the experimenters. So
right.
I think the materials lead where the machines can go, but I think before there's mass adoption, the machines need to come to where what the materials need.
Gotcha. I agree.
Yeah, I have a follow-up on that. With people are talking about Ultem and Peak as like the high temp materials. What are the use cases for those two materials?
I mean, you kind of get into wide range of use cases. Like Sean said, applications that are under the hood in the car, much higher tensile strength, functional type applications. Things that are exposed to a lot more heat and a lot more loads. There's a lot of things where you might be looking to need metal right now. Those materials are going to allow you to use plastic instead sometimes.
Things that need to absorb the heat and not transfer the heat, like couplings and whatnot, in between two different types of, a heat source and a receiver. There's got to be something in the middle that doesn't transmit heat and that can let heat either dampen or pass through it. So that would be like, something for Ultem or Peak.
Yeah, okay.
Sean, Chris, excuse me, Practical Printing Chris was asking if what you were looking for was something with the properties, something printable with properties of like Bakelite or ceramic, that it can be used as an electrical insulator. Is that what you were asking for? Something that I could actually do electrical insulation at a high temperature?
Yeah. Pretty. Okay. Yeah. Yes.
And that would still be the Ultem or Peak.
It would be, it would be Peak, and at an extreme it would be Peak. But I wanted to know, like, is there something that a regular consumer, like a regular hobbyist that's getting into this, that has a need for it but doesn't want to spend $95 on a roll of Peak or Ultem, could obtain?
Right.
Which, in my mind, I don't think there is any, but I just didn't know.
Yeah. I mean, the best option right now is the PCs and the nylons.
Yeah. Nylon 6, nylon 12.
Right.
So, hey, Matt, you get to play with a lot of different filaments. I mean, you got a huge warehouse full of filament. Over the years, you've gotten to see all different kinds of stuff. The bleeding edge, you've probably seen a lot of stuff that hasn't made it to market. Is there something in there that is like a favorite of yours, something that you like to go to and use just for whatever pops into your mind? Or are you very specific in what you use to print different things?
Can I say something before you answer that, Matt?
Yep.
Chris, you're asking this to the guy who printed a $200 Sir Layers a lot. Just to preface that.
Very true. Very true. That Lux is expensive. It's
Yeah, don't tell Filament Frenzy that if you hadn't noticed already.
What did you print that with?
Yeah, that was with Lux.
Yeah,
With the Color Fab Engine Lux.
that's dope.
2 kilogram spool.
Yeah. Yeah, I got a spool of that. It's crazy good looking filament.
So sorry.
What was the question
again? What filaments do I like? Or
do you have a favorite filament? Like, is there a go-to filament? I know it's a tough question, but like, for whatever most of what you print, do you have a go-to filament that you know I'm going to print it with this because I'm going to get the result that I know I'm going to get?
Yeah, I mean, mostly it's going to be based on what do we need. You know, if I'm doing something where I just need the form and I don't really need anything special with the properties, I'm going to go with a good quality PLA. You know, and there's more options there now. I mean, off of our shelf, I'm going to grab, you know, a spool of Color Fab PLA. A lot of the poly makers are great choices. You know, for us, we have the all maker stuff there. But if it's a functional application, it's going to be, you know, kind of evaluating what the needs are for, you know, what the mechanical requirements are, what are the environmental requirements, and we're going to pick a material that meets those. So, you know, I'd say probably 80% of what we're doing for printing things is just printing things in PLA. Yeah, then there's that other case where, you know, someone walks in and says, "Oh, I have this part that I need printed, and, you know, it needs to, you know, reach this temperature, and it's going to handle this kind of loading." And oh yeah, the walls are like, you know, 2 nozzle widths, and that's all you get. Then we're going to be a little bit more choosy with what we use.
All right, thank you. And a follow-up to that, is there any filament that you absolutely detest printing with? You know that it's the right filament for the job, whatever that job may be, but you don't want to print with this stuff because it's giving you, I don't know, a horror story or nightmares. I'm not.
You know, right now, so in the dead of winter, I really hate it when someone comes in and wants something in polycarbonate, just because, you know, the shop is cold. Even with Dave's wonderful enclosures, it's 50, 45 degrees in there, and it's pretty tough. But, you know, aside from that, I guess I would say the same thing if someone comes in with a big job with those things in the summer, because it's super hot in that front room and it gets even hotter. But I mean, as far as the material itself goes, not really. I mean, you just learn how to use the different materials, and no, they're fine. I don't like having to break supports off of polycarbonate.
Gosh, that's the worst.
Matt, you said about printing polycarbonate in the winter time with it being cold, even with the enclosures. You know how Dave's enclosures have the attachment for fans or for the BOFA filters? That opening is the perfect size for this to fit right in it. That's how I preheat my CR10 enclosure. I stick this in the side, let it run for a few seconds. You can heat the bed up pretty quick, heating the environment like that.
We don't know anything about using heaters with our enclosures.
What's that?
We don't know anything about using heaters with our enclosures.
Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't actually recommending anybody try this.
We actually use heaters in our print shop, in our 600s and our 1K cubed printer. We actually put heaters inside to heat the enclosure, and it works actually pretty well.
Yeah.
There's a few printers that are, it's an XYZ one of them that has a heated enclosure. Carl's in the chat. He knows that answer. The Da Vinci's. Don't they have heaters in the enclosure?
Not any of the ones that I've seen.
No.
Theoretically, if you have a heater inside your enclosure and you're a commercial machine that's being sold, you're licensing that technology. But
Okay.
Yeah, thanks to Walmart's $10 heaters.
right.
Yeah. Chris has a question. Chris has a question about resin properties versus FDM, as far as strength and temperature. So how are the resin materials holding up against what we are maybe used on a normal FDM printer?
So I don't have a ton of experience here. I have played around a bit with some of the tough resins and things like that are trying to, historically we would say an SLA is for good looking prints and an FDM is for more functional prints. I think both industries are trying to change that perception so that they're kind of both being perceived as being good for everything. But I haven't worked with a resin print yet that I would consider to be good functionally. And I haven't worked with a FDM printer that can touch the aesthetics of this printer. But yeah, I mean, generally you're going to want to, stick with the thermoplastics for functional use. Maybe there's better resins that'll come out. I don't know.
Yeah, so you could probably get very detailed, like if you were doing like silicone molds and using SLA for creating those molds, and then using some materials that would have better properties. So to get the detail that way.
Yeah.
Actually, Martin, you just made me think of a question. Matt, I don't know if you watch YouTube a lot. Is there any chance that you have seen the King of Random? They did a recent video where I think it was yesterday or the day before, they took filament, melted it down in a skillet, and then tried to pour silicone molds of it. And happen to see anything about that at all?
No, I don't have a lot of time to watch it.
Okay. So yeah, they took the filament, cut it up into little pieces, threw it in a skillet, and melted it down to the point that it basically was liquid, and poured it into a silicone mold. What we hear about people burning their filament in their hot ends and overheating it, printing too hot. What happens to the filaments when you exceed their temperature limits that are recommended? The higher you go with it.
So in some cases, and I would say, pretty much in the cases of the filaments that we're using regularly, if you exceed the manufacturer's recommended temperatures, it's not really a big deal. But there are lots of different polymers out there, and some degrade into toxic, like not just the ultrafine particles toxic, but if you're in the room with it for too long, you're going to die toxic. Like PVC. You couldn't melt down a bunch of PVC scrap and exceed its temperature, or you got chlorine gas and you're not going to walk out of the room. I mean, generally with our filaments, unless you're burning them, you're going to be okay. I mean, some of the things in polycarbonate and then ASA and ABS are potentially carcinogenic, so you don't want to be breathing them in over long periods of time. But as far as just a one-shot exposure, it's not going to kill you.
I have a quick question, if you don't mind. Have you? I don't know what your views are, but have you seen the the filament by 3DX Tech that is chemical resistant. I don't know if you've ever used it or seen it.
Which, do you know specifically which material?
It is, well, they do an ABS, PETG, and I think their Ultim and Peak are also.
You mean fire resistant?
They do have the fire resistant, but they also have a chemical resistant. I just saw it today, actually. I'll look it up real quick. But I know that they use the different additives, and it's from, like, the additives are from a legit company that does that stuff with those materials. But as a, I'm sorry, I got distracted. I'm looking it up. Where is it? Sorry, give me a moment.
Yeah, I think I see it. It's the Kynar material.
Yeah, Kynar. Yeah. So with layer bonding, with, you know, additive manufacturing and layer bonding, you know, it's different than injection molding. It's completely different than injection molding because you do have those layers. And do you think that it is possible for those chemicals to seep through those layers? Like, they market it as chemical resistant, which I believe it is. You know, I don't think that they'd be, you know, upselling their stuff, but like with additive manufacturing, you know, you are putting layers on layers. Do you think those chemicals would wipe off of that, or do you think that they would manage their way through?
No, I mean, so that material is a fluoropolymer, like a PTFE or something like that. It's not all of its it doesn't get its properties from an additive. It gets its properties from its molecular structure. There's nothing, once you get above a certain temperature, it breaks down and off gases stuff that you don't want. But yeah, I mean, it's not like just sitting there. Now, the things that are leached out are generally additives like colorants and plasticizers and things like that. And those, you know, but just a natural plain resin is typically going to be pretty safe.
Okay.
Well,
chemical resistant is generally going to mean that stuff is not coming off of it.
Yeah, well, I thought with chemical resistance, I thought it was more that it's not going to break down with contact to different chemicals. Rather than, Sean, from what you were saying, it sounded like you were talking about the chemicals getting in between the layers and causing layer separation over time and things like that. Is that what you were saying?
Right. Like the chemicals getting in between the layers and breaking down the material within, not from the shell, not from the outside of the material, from the inside of the material.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the material is concerned, it's all the same.
Okay. I don't know. I just feel like the description led me astray with thinking about what it was about, you know?
Yeah, I think chemical resistance, like you're talking, you know, if I put this PLA print in hydrochloric acid, is it going to dissolve it, or is it okay? ABS and acetone. It's not. ABS is not chemically resistant to acetone. It dissolves.
Yeah,
that's going to happen whether it's a solid injection molded part or a 3D printed part. The layer lines won't affect that, just because the part's not watertight, so to speak. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, Eddie Moser has a question about how long before we should see some cheap and safe solution to smooth PLA and PETG like Polymax does with its polysmooth filaments.
I mean, you have the gloop, 3D gloop is one solution. I mean, the fact is that to smooth those surfaces, you need chemicals. So safe is always going to be a relative question.
Yeah, so it has to basically melt the PLA or PETG to make it smooth.
Yeah, you're either going to dissolve those layers or you're going to put something in between them.
Yeah, and 3D Gloop, I know talking to them, that has the same chemicals in it that the Weldon 4 has, just in different percentages, I think.
And they also have some polymers mixed in.
Okay, so it's kind of like a ABS slurry, so to speak.
Yeah.
And 3D Gloop, they want you to, for smoothing effects, they want you to pre-sand, gloop, and then sand after you gloop, and then gloop again for ultimate results.
Okay, let's go down that rabbit hole a little bit, Chris, since you've kind of got a little bit of experience with them. What's the dry times that they're recommending when you do something like that?
I want to say that it says like a 24-hour total cure time in the package or in the packaging, but I found, typically speaking, 5-10 minutes with, some tape holding it together after, the first 1 or 2 minutes by hand. And then I pulled in some tape to hold it after I held it by hand. And then in an hour, it really seemed pretty solid to me. Now, I wasn't swinging anything around, that quickly, but it seems to set pretty fast, just as fast as epoxy, if not faster.
I was kind of more referring to like for their smoothing process, where sanding, then you apply it. How long in between applying it and then resanding again? Do you recall what they had recommended for that?
I don't think it got into that. What I read, it just said to go through those steps. I imagine you could do that inside of a couple hours, just based on how I've used it.
Right.
But definitely not less than to put. Well, sand it, and then you put on that base coat. You give it some time to dry, sand it. Yeah, you're probably doing that within 2 hours.
Yeah. The reason I asked that was I have a roll of Polysmooth, and it amazed me how long the part stays squishy and sticky after you dip it in alcohol or even just brush it on with a brush and don't really put that much on it. How long of a lasting chemical reaction that actually is until the part starts to solidify again. That was the reason I was asking about the steps in between the 3D glue. To come back to chemical resistance with things like Polysmooth, what other materials or chemicals affect Polysmooth? If alcohol affects it that easily, what else will affect that? Matt, have you experimented with that, or do you know anything more about it?
I haven't, but I have some experiments that I need to try. I mean, my guess is it's probably not resistant to much.
Yeah, because Polysmooth is PVB, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Which I don't even understand I don't know what the actual what PVB actually stands for fully. I know it's one letter off of PVA.
Yeah, I don't think they're very similar.
Yeah, it's not water
acronyms.
Right. Catching up on chat. Anybody in the panel have any questions? Anybody in the chat have any other additional questions for Matt? If not, we'll give it a couple minutes for stuff to come into the chat. We can start to do outros a while. It's 11:30 now. Start to do outros a little bit. Give the chat a chance to ask some more questions. Sound good, guys?
Yeah, sure.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Matt, since you ended the introductions when we started out, why don't you go ahead and do your outro? Make sure you talk about Printed Solid, MakerBox, anything you guys have coming up. Keep trying to get you to talk about Friday stuff.
Hint. Yeah. So thanks for having me on here. I'm glad you're mostly able to hear me. Yeah, Printed Solid. So obviously there's kind of some sales going on right around this time of the year. Black Friday is next week. We take that seriously, almost like a religion. So Black Friday is the 23rd, and we do not do it early unless you happen to get me last week. But yeah, we have some, just out of the water, crazy sales on filament. And a lot of times in the past when we've done Black Friday, it's kind of been filament that we've happened across or filament that we just wanted to get out of the building. This year we have been actively searching for filament all year. So we have a lot of really good stuff that's going to be really cheap. We want the building to be much less full on Tuesday morning. So yeah, next Friday, definitely go to printedsolid.com. And also all week, we're going to do the $100 gift giveaways every day. So this app that we have on there is new. I'm not entirely sure how it's going to work. So I would suggest going and re-entering every day just to make sure that you're entered. I think you'll be entered anyways, but I don't know. It's the first time using it. And then, MakerBox, we've got lots of great things coming up. Joel's going to be releasing the video he did next week. We have the new boxes that will probably be released on the same day or maybe a day after he releases his video. Yeah, and I guess that's all I have. So yeah, thanks for having me.
Click the wrong button. Sorry. Yeah. So from what the little bit of a sneak peek we had gotten at the meetup last weekend, yeah, definitely check out Printed Solids, at least the filament sales. All right, let's go with Sean.
Hello, my name is Sean. Just did my intro. I work at IC3D. I am an extrusion operator and the community manager there. We create filament. We make filament, ABS, PETG, and PLA, and hopefully more in the future. And then we also have a print shop where we do additive manufacturing and industrial prints for various companies and prototyping and whatever. So yeah, so come check us out on our website, and please go to Printed Solid and check out their Black Friday deals and check out everything that they have to offer. A lot of good stuff, great people. So yeah.
All right, Chris.
Hey everybody, Chris here. At mcrispy1 on the Twitter is the best place to follow me to see what I'm doing in 3D printing. One of the founders of Earth. There will be Earth news coming soon. I'll tease that. The team and I, we're working on figuring out dates for next year. So more to come there. Some of you might have seen some stuff go out about that. And then otherwise, just have a good time being here, learning from Matt. I will go ahead and vouch without getting any stitches. There's going to be some good stuff in that sale. So I'm definitely looking forward to it myself.
I can't wait to see what they didn't tell us about, Chris.
I'm sure.
All right, Martin, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm Marteinn, and I have a channel on Twitter called 3DP Iceland. And I do a lot of filament testing on projects on my printers and practical prints around the house, but also I do a lot of those landscapes that I print out and paint with acrylic paints. So I have a whole series on my channel where I do those, and starting to live stream while I paint, and it's like a slow TV. And people like to watch me paint for 1 or 2 hours. So that's me. This I recently did. It's a 350 millimeter high zero layer salad. It's an awesome print of my 010. And here I have another one with a polyalchemy print. This one is printed on my Prusa printer. It's super shiny. Yeah, and Matt has one as well. That's me, Marteinn from 3DP Iceland.
All right, and I'm Matt from How I Do It. You can find me on Twitter at Country Cowboy, youtube.com/howIdoit, and Instagram Matthew Flinchbaugh. You can also follow the Friday Night 3D Printing Community Hangouts on Twitter at F3DPCH. You can go to the website, which is f3dpch.com, or Friday 3D Printing Community Hangout.com. Obviously, use the f3dpch.com one. It's shorter. There's going to be some changes coming to the website, including the links for future topics, suggestions for future topics. And with those suggestions, we're asking for your recommendations of people with special skills, special knowledge, just like Matt tonight with material science degree. We're looking for who you guys would like to see us bring on and interview and get to ask questions about a specific topic on the Friday Night Hangouts. So I'm going to have a survey form up on the website, hopefully tonight, actually, but it may not happen until tomorrow morning. Keep an eye out for the future streams. We're going to be having a form that you guys can put in questions ahead of time. So that'll be linked on the website. And of course, I'll send it out over Twitter and through the Facebook page and groups. The next Friday night 3D Printing Community Hangout is on Friday, November 23rd. That is at 20 UTC, hosted by Marteinn, most likely, I believe. Is that correct, Marteinn?
Yep.
Martein's going to be hosting. That is actually going to be talking with Stefan from CNC Kitchen about material testing and material testing rigs. So kind of a continuation of this whole conversation. The next US stream is going to be on Friday, November 30th at 10 p.m. Eastern. And that's actually going to be with Sean from IC3D. And he is going to be at the IC3D filament manufacturing plant and showing an extrusion line in operation and answering questions from us and talking about the actual piece of equipment. So you can follow all those. Nightbot's been posting in the chat the link to the new Google Calendar that you can subscribe to. I'll get it to post there in a second. There's the link to the calendar. You can subscribe to that so that you can integrate the Friday Night Hangouts right into your calendar on your mobile device and on your desktop. That way you can set up your own notifications to remind you of when the streams are. For those of you who are hosts, co-hosts, please check the Facebook group. There's a new post on there about some changes that we're making to the way that we organize the streams ahead of time. So that's everything I got. We can go back to the same conversation, or we can change topics if you all want to.
How about the local sports teams?
Local sports teams.
Hell no, mine all suck.
Same here.
I'm not talking.
So you know, maybe here's a little something off topic. Maybe Matt will answer, maybe Matt won't. Matt, you think there's anything, you know, that's going to be big in consumer 3D printing this holiday? Something that's maybe on your radar that might not be on the rest of our radar?
I mean, we have our new Maker Box subscription, our new Easy Plan. I don't know. I mean, I feel like last year was the year that the $200 printer became like a real thing. So I feel like there were a lot of people getting 3D printers under the tree for the first time. Yeah, I don't know that there's a big holiday thing. Like, I expect more people to be buying filaments to make things for holiday gifts than be buying filament as holiday gifts.
Okay. Yeah, no, that does. That does.
I'm muted. You think I'd figure this out by now. Matt, what do you know of any filaments coming out or anything that you've heard of in the works that may be of interest to the hobbyist market? I know right now nylon and you said nylon and polycarbonate are kind of the two really better suited go-to filaments for a lot of applications for practical printing. Is there anything that you've seen or been watching that may be coming our direction for new materials that we haven't gotten to print yet?
I mean, the biggest thing that I see happening right now with the filaments is the chemical companies getting in the game. So I don't know that that's going to mean a heck of a lot for people on a day-to-day basis, but I mean, it's where the higher end filament company or printer companies, that's kind of what they're leaning on is, now it's not just about getting, not that we would talk about ABS as the example, but getting ABS, it's about getting, big filament companies branded ABS, because then that actually ends up being used in the parts, functional real world objects. But now that gets us one step closer to printing things in our home that are as good as, true functional production end use objects. So, I mean, that's what I see happening is the big trade name polymers becoming accessible at the filament level.
All right. And then another question that I did have for you. I know I've heard you talk about this, and I'm not sure if we had talked about it with Dave on the stream before or not. Mixing materials. So we have dual extrusion systems, quad extruders. You have the Prusa with 5 extrusion, 5 filament capability. What kind of difficulties are people going to see as they start to try to combine things like a nylon print with an ABS print, even throwing in E3D's head changing printer where you can actually run 2 different temperatures on heads? What kind of problems will people be facing with trying to actually combine PLA with ABS and nylon or flexible all at the same time?
Yeah, so I mean, we've got some of these materials that just don't want to stick to each other. So I mean, that's something that we're going to deal with. We're all struggling to find a build plate material that works with every filament, and there's not one. Sometimes you want to switch out build plate materials, and so the same thing is going to be true using different filaments. You might want to use let's say, nylon and ABS, but they're probably not going to stick together. And so that's, something people are going to have to deal with. Now, I bet people will get creative and figure out some crazy way to make it happen, but it's going to be one challenge. The different technologies all have different specific challenges. So, the MMU, getting your settings dialed in. So when you retract that filament, it doesn't kind of block the next filament to come in. It's a challenge that people are going to have to deal with. We want dissolvables that dissolve faster, but we also don't want them to be affected by moisture while we're using them. So that's a challenge that we've got to deal with as well. Just getting the materials to act nicely together.
Yeah, one of the things I know I've heard you say before is like using polyalchemy as your actual support material or support interface if you have the capability of doing interface layers. And I don't remember if last week or 2 weeks ago we had talked with Dave about that on stream, or if that was a conversation we were having after the stream. But that was something, Matt, that you had kind of turned everybody on to, was using the silk filament as a support material because it doesn't really want to bond with anything except for itself.
Well, I would argue including itself. You know, you don't get the best layer bonding. Now, I think going forward, we're going to need to pull polyalchemy out of that discussion a little bit. They're, you know, doing some good work on improving the layer bonding of their materials. But yeah, generically, the silk, you know, the PLA TPU blend, two materials that don't, you know, they're not really thermodynamically miscible. So they, you know, there's all these stresses and the layers just don't want to stick together well. So yeah, that's good as a support material.
Yeah, I saw in the introduction video for the Palette 2, he was showing like a wristband for Apple Watch, and he was having the wristband of a TPU material and then the pin to strap it in with a PLA, and he was telling people that in that case you have to model in the PLA part into the flexible part, so it would be not a chemical bond, but just a mechanical bond.
Yeah.
So you have to model it in to get it to get stuck together.
Yeah, I mean, I spent, you know, a decent amount of time in my career working with PTFE, so, you know, Teflon, so, you know, PTFE from our Bowden tubing, and nothing bonds to PTFE. And so that's what you have to do is so this idea of a mechanical bond is not unique to 3D printing. It's, you know, the way things are bonded together sometime in the industry. You use the geometry of the thing to kind of stick everything together rather than chemically bonding it.
Yeah, so you could intertwine the models so they would lock together.
What about I don't know if this would just be asking for a jam clog in your nozzle or not, but what if you had materials overlapping each other rather than mechanical, like putting in a keyway where the PLA is building up inside of the TPU or vice versa? What if you actually took to a point where you printed the same material on the same layer at the same height over top of each other and kind of blended the two together? Would that, for some reason in my head, that sounds like it should work, but at the same time too, I can see like three layers in, you jam your nozzle up and have a failed print sitting on your bed when you came down to look at it.
I mean, you would need to compensate your flows so that you're not putting too much material into the same space. But
yeah,
that's kind of what you do when you make a prime tower.
Right. Except in most cases with the prime tower, you're still using the same type of material. It's just a different color.
Not with a dual extrusion.
Well, yeah, okay, that's true. And then Carl asked, where'd it go? Oh, Carl asked if you could use a mixing nozzle to make a transition layer between non-compatible filaments. So I guess where you're actually extruding both of them at the same time with what would normally be a color mixing nozzle.
I mean, typically when you have non-compatible materials, you know, they're not compatible. So yeah, you can kind of force a mix to happen, but it's not going to be good. So I mean, we kind of find ways to make things work in 3D printing. So I imagine we'll see all those things happening. You know, it may not become anyone's first choice for, you know, daily printing, but you know, people figure things out.
Right. We got another addition to the stream. Latecomer.
Yeah. What of it?
You're still in that new baby phase, aren't you?
I was going to say, it looks like he's fresh off baby duty.
Oh, actually, baby's been asleep. Sean's looking straight at a cat anus.
Hey, that's a beautiful cat anus.
Actually, we were just We just got done watching Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them because we're going to go see The Crimes of Grindelwald tomorrow, and I had yet to see the Fantastic Beasts one. Gotta say, that was a really fun movie. As a Potter fan, that was a good movie. I liked it. Am I supposed to do my introduction?
Sure.
I'm Joe Mike. That's it.
That's all the effort tonight. Huh?
Joe Mike and a mic drop.
Dude, I don't have a whole lot on YouTube at the moment because, like you said, I'm in new baby mode, and I got certain projects that I'm doing that take me into the wee hours of the morning. And while Matt's on this stream, I should, profusely apologize for not keeping up with the maker boxes. I abased myself in front of you, my friend. I'm sorry.
He's got a pile of them back there behind him.
Yeah, they're all over the place.
Yeah, you'll get to them someday.
I'm getting there. If you can see the mess behind me. It is. Ever since baby came, the basement exploded, and I'm just watching it burn.
Yeah. I had babies once too. I understand. It didn't produce the babies, but had babies lived in my house.
Yeah, my latest maker box came in a white box.
That's the new box.
No, it's not the new box. That's the
box?
one we use for international shipments.
Yeah, okay. I have like 3 of the black boxes back here, but I sometimes get the white boxes as well.
It depends on what happens this month. That's the last time you'll get a white box like that. We have the new boxes that came in today.
Yeah, okay.
Very excited about them.
Martin, one of your boxes is upside down. That's blasphemous, man.
Yeah. Yeah. I have to fix that.
Dear Mike, any material use questions? You're always working on interesting, different projects from time to time, especially baby-proofing the house and things like that. Oh, what's a good baby-proof material?
I do bubble wrap fill. That's a given.
Bubble wrap filament.
I've been liking actually ABS for baby material. I started looking into what they were actually making the actual on the shelf baby proofing gizmos, like the socket plugs and the door and all the other stuff, the cabinet catches and all that stuff, and they're all injection molded ABS. So I figured, I'll just give that a shot. ABS is relatively inexpensive. I can print it well because of a sweet printed solid enclosure that Mr. Randolph hooked me up with. So yeah, ABS has been my go-to for that one. However, I have been exploring the possibility of maybe throwing in some PETG for there's this wraparound that goes around a door handle that you have to grab it just right to open the door. I'll probably use PETG for that just because of its resilience to repetitive opening, closing, taking on, off. It's a good print material for that. I wouldn't use something like a carbon fiber for anything because that's just ridiculously expensive to use for that kind of stuff. And it'll be a while before I print that because she's not walking yet. So
get your doorknob things printed. I'm still printing them for Bailey. She's 2.5. And yeah, PLA probably is not the best for the doorknob things. They don't break from us using them. They break from her. I'm on revision 3 or 4 now. They last for 2-3 months, and then she figures out how to get through it.
I'm worried about the potential. I know it's plastic. I know PLA is plastic, but I mean, coming from an electrical background, I think of terms of resistance and ABS resistance versus PLA's resistance given its chemical composition. And I need to put that to the test, put a little excess voltage and current through ABS and excess voltage and current through PLA to see you know, what kind of resistance is there between the two? Because I'm not sure if I'd want to use PLA for my socket protectors. I'm sure it would work fine. I'm sure the resistance is high enough and it's a good enough insulator to work fine. But at the same time, just given its base, I'm still a little iffy with it.
I think Matt was talking about nylon earlier, nylon 6, nylon 12 as an insulator.
Yeah, nylon's pricey though.
That's true.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to do PLA. I'd be afraid of it being too brittle and cracking, and then you have those bits in the plug.
And then you're digging them out with a fork.
Well,
Yeah.
you know,
Or a very, very, very nice set of tweezers that I here. This is my PLA out of the electrical socket tweezers.
well, Joe, if you dig through some of your maker boxes there, you might have a sample or two in there that you can use for that.
All those maker boxes are empty. I've actually got all my my samples are categorized and color coordinated and everything. They're probably the most organized thing in this entire basement.
You see what? Well, that's what I do with my maker boxes. I take the easy to print PLAs out, and I do my benchy printing. And thanks for mentioning that the other day on the Facebooks.
Yeah, well, it had to be mentioned.
But then the other exotic filaments that I don't have a use case for yet, they all go in the box, and I say, oh, well, now I can use that for something like what you're talking about.
I still bust out the exotics from time to time. I mean, one of the best examples I can think of was I was printing out some decorations for Savannah's room, and I found some samples of color fab cork fill, or a sample of color fab cork fill, and it was like the perfect fit for a little planter base that I wanted to do for cactus. And I mean, I don't have any color fab cork fill on a spool, but just that one sample was enough to print out the little planter base. So it's just awesome being able to kind of rummage through the baggies and see, oh, what? Yeah, let's try that and give that a shot. And it turned out great. And now I want a whole spool of cork fill because that stuff prints beautifully for wood fill.
Yeah, I do the same thing.
That cork fill, I've never used it. Is it like cork board? Like when you touch it, is it like a cork board?
Well, no.
It's dense.
You're not gonna like stick a thumbtack in it, then.
No.
Okay.
It's I would call it a lighter wood filament, and by lighter I mean like actually lighter in weight. But it's the coloration of it and the printability. For some reason, I have an easier time printing the cork fill than I do their regular wood fill. Their wood fill jams on me a lot, which is normal with wood fills a lot of the times until you get them dialed in. But the cork fill was almost plug and play. Like I just popped it on, printed with it, it went, and the results that came off of it were immaculate. Like it does not look 3D printed, and the color of it, I love that dark brown color. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I've seen some people using different temperatures on those wood fills or cork fills to get different colors. So if you up the temperature, you burn it a little bit more, and then you get darker colors. So you can play around with that.
One of the cool things that I've been seeing with the wood fills as of late is velocity printing. A lot of people have been playing with velocity printing and wood fills to get cool wood grain patterns out of it. So I mean, it's a little. I don't know what voodoo magic they're using, but it looks really cool. I know it's adjustments in speed. I don't know if they're doing adjustments in temperature, but it's like the random speed up, slow down, and kind of making this pattern as they print. But the results that come out of it looks like wood grain. So
that'll be in your next Simplify 3D update.
Yeah, in 2021 when we get 4.2.
Yeah, and five patches and one feature.
I'm over S3D. I'm so over S3D right now.
Yeah, I played around with the custom supports in Slick3R or Slicer on this model, and it was very simple just to add a block underneath, and it works.
Yeah.
So custom supports in Slick3R is just working fine.
Yeah, and when you've got someone like Joe Prussia that is I don't know if he's a serial perfectionist / just I mean, he is a driving force in of himself, of a man. You know, when he kind of adopted the slicer platform and started tweaking it and started making it in his own, and you know, he's really pushed that slicer to way beyond where it was before he got it, or before he touched it. And then he's also, I think at this point, he's on the cusp of pretty much making S3D obsolete. The supports were a big thing. That was one of the main reasons why most people switched over to S3D or made the purchase for S3D was, hey, customizable supports. I would love that. I just don't want the slicer going to town with supports. And now we have that ability, at least, you know, it's not the most, you know, friendliest user interface in Slicer, but it still is there. And I think as time goes and development continues on Prussia's end, it will become more friendly. And I'm excited to see where that goes. And the fact that he keeps it open source and keeps it free. I think S3D is going to see their revenue stream topple, unfortunately. And I say unfortunately with a mixed, you know, I mean, Matt, you guys sell S3D licenses, don't you? Yeah. I mean, it's all their fault. They're not keeping up with the daggum, you know, technology. I feel like they're kind of sitting on their butts over there. We got, after 1 year, we got a 0.1 update that broke some people's printers or some people's configurations and just didn't give us much in the way of new features or even bug fixes. Like the Mac bug still exists when importing profiles into a Mac. It's just simple stuff, you know. It's like if you're a software developer and that's what you do and you expect people to pay $150, you know, if you don't produce consistent results and start squashing the bugs and getting in features that people are asking for, eventually you're going to find that people aren't flocking to your software anymore.
Yeah, they need to up their game. That's
a little bit.
Like true, and this latest release was not upping the game.
The latest release was a disappointment. When we caught wind that a 4.1 was coming, we were all like, "Oh, holy crap! They did something." I mean, that was the first reaction, and then once we got the change log, it was like, "Oh, well, that's fun." I waited a year for that. Yay!
Right.
Yeah, it was a pretty crappy release for a 1 year development process. I don't know how many people work at that company, but I believe there can't be too many people working on this product. Maybe it's just one guy in a basement somewhere.
I heard somewhere in the last week or two of rumblings that, and Matt, maybe you know more and can attest to this, that it's just one guy, one like younger guy and his mom. Or
his
something.
Mom?
Yeah, like that the business side of it is run by the mom, and the kid or younger adult does the programming, and that's basically it.
That's the rumor I heard.
Oh man.
Yeah, it looks like it, at least from the development cycle speed.
you've been around it long enough that maybe you know. Is that what is Simplify 3D as far as size of a company?
Yeah. I mean, I've had the interaction with the business side, and I feel like I've interacted with different people from technical support issues, but maybe not. And I've seen them at a few events. I mean, it's not like, we have companies that we're very close with and interact a lot with, and I can speak a lot about, what their business looks like. But yeah, not Simplify 3D. We, it's very nice to have them as a partner, but yeah, not one that we're really super.
All I'll say on the whole small person team as far as software development, I take a look at like Octoprint and Gina and how she pushes constantly forward. And I mean, that's one of the things to be said about open source. And she keeps it open source. A lot of people can contribute, but she still is very protective of her kernel. She's very protective of the core fundamentals that is Octoprint. Plugins make Octoprint really shine, and plugins are community contributed. But the fundamental core that is Octoprint, Gina controls most of the development on that. And then what was the other one? I was thinking that was a one man. Oh crap! Go on.
Let your mic steam a little bit.
I can't remember the name of that stinking. I had it on the tip of my tongue. Oh, Scott, Marlin firmware.
I forgot Marlin.
Yeah, no, I was so yeah, just just the thing that drives 99% of our printers. That's Scott's baby right now, and that thing, he's really making some amazing strides with that. I mean, Linear Advance, when that came out, was like, wow. Just I don't know how I printed without Linear Advance now that I use it so much. Now that it works properly, I should say. But just over the time of seeing the different releases of Marlin come out, it's just like feature release after feature release after feature release, bug kill after bug kill after bug kill after bug kill. And it's, so like, yeah, again, open source. I think that's probably why S3D is going to fall so far behind, Slicer, and even Cura. I mean, Cura's Ultimaker, but, Ultimaker has a massive stake in Cura because they want it to be a premier slicer. Even if you don't use an Ultimaker, you can still use the Cura software, and you're always reminded, hey, this is Ultimaker. But it's one of those things where S3D is going to be left on the side of the road because they just don't have the manpower probably to keep up, unless they went open source and free, which they won't do.
I think the big thing now is, what's really going to hurt them this year. So we've all been waiting for this big release. Everybody's had their hopes up because, last year they did some nice upgrades. They weren't huge upgrades, but they were still decent enough, like the variable layer plugins and stuff like that for Simplify 3D, or features, I guess.
But you're talking about the 4.0 update?
Yeah, the 4.0 update.
Well, that was like that was a complete new, like, right, from 3.0 to 4.0. That was a feature update, a new release. But the 4.1, oh my gosh.
We got that. And, like when they started teasing, back at the end of July, beginning of August, they started teasing the update coming. I was expecting the same thing again, that, look, all the other slicers are catching up to the features they have. They're going to introduce something new. They're going to do something that, you know, people have been talking about, but aren't really thinking of. I honestly can't think of any idea off the top of my head, but they didn't even like mess with infill settings and give you different infill patterns. Not that that's a huge thing, but I know I don't remember the name of it. Whatever Prusa's new infill pattern is. What is it?
Cubic.
Gyroid.
Gyroid.
Oh,
Yeah.
the gyroid. I still use their cubic because it makes the part strong on all sides.
Right.
That one was amazing.
I think their thing is now it's like, you know, everybody was paying $150 because there were features with Simplify that you can't get. Or you bought it for the reason that I did, which is that FlashForge Dreamer clone, essentially, that you could only use Flash Print or Simplify for it. I bought Simplify the day I bought the printer because I launched Flash Print, looked at it, and I was like, I ain't using this. I bought Simplify. The only reason I really continue to use it is because I've set up all my printers. I've tuned everything for Simplify 3D. And as much as I'd like to play with the other slicers again, I mean, when I got my Delta, it was all Cura. That's what I used was Cura for everything. I'd like to play with the slicers that are out and the newer features and stuff in them. But, you know, I've paid for Simplify, so I continue to use it because I've got it set up. The incentive for somebody to buy into it at this point, their continued profit, there's not as much of a reason anymore.
Yeah, like the revenue stream is going to dry up if it hasn't already started. And what I've been doing is a systematic exodus from S3D. So I've begun one of the main things that drew me to S3D versus other than customizable supports, which to me at the time was important, was the way that it handled printer and material profiles. How you could set up a printer and have all the settings for the printer and then the materials. It was all easy to switch on the fly. The UI for that was great. And since then, I've learned how to use Slicer and set up my material profiles and printers in there and realized it's just as great. In fact, it goes a couple steps further than S3D does. So I've been slowly bringing all my printer profiles and cloning them on Slicer. And I think I only have maybe 2 printers that still I only have S3D profiles for, and they're ones I don't print on very often. As far as Cura, I stopped using Cura. I mean, I used it with the Monoprice Mini for a while, and I would still use it if I was printing on that thing. But the only other printer that I used Cura for was the Moai, and that was before they released their software. So I don't like the way that Cura, the settings. I don't like the settings, the way that they have them arranged. It's all one giant column of craziness. When you enable all the settings and you just go down, you're like, this is the same setting twice. So I can do layer height by, or I can do you know, my top layer height by either millimeters or by number of layers. So they give you both options, which is cool, but you're sitting there scratching your head like, hey, why can't we have these in, like, you know, why can't there be like, if you want to do everything by layers, then here's these settings. If you want to do everything by millimeters, here's these settings. But they just cram everything all into the one long column, and there's so many settings in there that you can tweak that you probably don't need to or shouldn't tweak that are in there. And if I was a complete noob and I had clicked on advanced and looked at all that, I would have been like, nope, out.
Yeah, that's my experience.
That's kind of the responsibility of the like if you use Cura with the Ultimaker, like try loading the Ultimaker 3 or the Ultimaker S5 profile, and then go go into those advanced settings and then use the filters, so it kind of goes like easy, harder, expert, and then everything. So it does give you those filtration levels. Yeah, I mean, for anything else, it doesn't provide those same filtration levels. So yeah.
Matt, you've got a mixture of printers that you get to mess with on a daily basis. What, out of all the different slicers, what's your favorite out of all of them to use?
So for me, it's Cura. I don't use Slicer much. Just like when I play with Dave's Prusa sometimes, which is rare. I almost never. I mean, I hate to say it because I rarely use Simplify 3D anymore. We have an idea maker on the Rays, which is not. I think as far as slicing algorithms go, it's not that great, but I really like the user interface on that one. It's still, we're kind of still in the world of all the different slicers seem to have some things that are nice that I wish they would all have combined.
Yep.
That's for sure. And I mean, I started out with Cura. That was the first slicer that I ever used was Cura, but that was back during the Cura 15 days. And back then it was pretty straightforward at that point. At least to me, it had the tabs and there weren't as many settings to screw with. So it was pretty straightforward to set it up. The printer that I got had instructions, hey, get into Cura and follow these steps and do that. Once you got it set up, it was like off to the races. With the release of like 2.0 and then 3.0, it started getting a little bit more convoluted for me, and that's when I started to back away and go to Slicer. I believe that Cura definitely has a place in the 3D printing community, especially for Ultimakers. I think if you're running an Ultimaker and you're not running Cura, you're not benefiting from, that would be like, what is that one thing? Oh, dad brain.
Prusa?
No. I mean, Prusa, yeah. I mean, that's, if you have a Prusa, but then again, Prusa works well with just about any slicer you throw at it. The benefit with using Prusa or Slicer PE is that it's got pre-built profiles for Prusa. So it's nice that they already dialed that in.
Kind of where that same argument with Ultimaker and Cura come in.
Yeah.
I mean, if anything's going to work the best with an Ultimaker, it should be Cura. If anything's going to work best with Prusa, it should be Prusa. Except for those special
make the same argument with Cura and Ultimaker though, because so the Ultimaker 3 and S5 don't work particularly well with any other slicer.
Yeah,
it's not just the profiles. There's things with the heating and cooling and the way the firmware interacts with the code. So it's a little bit different.
Well,
that's the same for my Mini. My Mini and Cura does not like each other. They do not like each other at all.
And that's kind of go along the same lines as the printer behind me. Sorry, Matt. But the Pulse was built, to work with matter control, which is Matter Hacker's slicer. And I mean, matter control's coming along, and it's all right. I still prefer other slicers, but I couldn't get that thing to work with any other slicer. Like when I started messing with Simplify 3D with it and Slicer with it, I was trying to do bed leveling with G29, and it just stared at me like I was asking it to speak French. And it started printing in midair. It didn't do a bed level or anything. And then I learned that basically matter control does the initial bed leveling, sends the printer the mesh level coordinates, and that's it. That's how they handle it. And that if you wanted to use G29, that I mean, I ended up having to go to their GitHub and activate the G29 code and then flash it so I could do it. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of like we're talking about. It's the pairing of the printer to the slicers. So Prusa PE to Prusas, Ultimaker to Cura, the Pulse to Matter Control, and doesn't Raise, what does Raise use?
Magic.
Idea Maker.
Idea Maker. That's what I thought. Yeah, no, they do use Magic. It's like you just print on money. That's
You
what
just
you do.
you use print money. That's all it does.
That's your build surface. You buy a raise and then you lay down a layer of $100 bills and print on.
Hey, to interrupt real quick, Chris, you want to go ahead and tell everybody one more time where to find you?
Everybody can find me in bed in about 2 minutes.
Oh, party.
No,
he's an East Coaster. We all are East Coasters, except for Martin, who's a real East Coaster.
Been a long day on the East Coast. Catch me on the Twitters at mcrispy1. Check out Earth on the Twitters, Facebook, Earth 2018. We're on YouTube too. That's all I got.
What's the next big print after the holiday season?
I don't know yet. Don't know. Got to figure that out.
You could do a Sir Layers a lot.
I am cutting one up for Matt so he can do a 6 foot tall one.
Chris, you need to, those trees that we all did last year, the ones that were 2 pieces that
Twisty trees.
the twisty tree.
Oh, yeah.
You should do one of those for Christmas, but like as tall as you can possibly get it.
Yes. Those are awesome.
And then have fun twisting it together.
Think about that.
Nightmare.
All right, everybody. Good night.
See you, Chris. Thanks for joining.
Hi, man.
Bye, Chris.
Yeah, see you.
Did you guys announce the gift card winner?
Yeah, it wasn't you.
I didn't even enter.
Was it me?
What?
Well, I'm not going to enter.
You were too busy making that pulse back there actually work to enter.
No. Printed Solid takes care of me. I'm not going to enter into that. I'm going to let, someone else get it. Have some excellent Printed Solid gear.
Printed Solid needs to come out.
I entered myself and I didn't win.
Oh my gosh, man.
I was testing to make sure that it worked and I deleted my entry, but I did enter.
Uh-huh.
I'm sure Dave probably entered. Was like, yeah, I'm gonna do that. Uh-huh.
He's a major customer, so he would be within his rights.
It'd be the first $100 that Dave actually spent since he became co-owner.
No,
like the first
no.
rule.
Dave spent plenty of money.
The first rule of drug dealing: don't get hooked on your own product.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, is that the
When
first
you come
one?
in as an addict.
Oh gosh, where is Dave?
He was in the chat. He said we're not allowed to have him and Matt on the same stream.
Would it cause the stream to implode?
I think so.
Oh.
So we had Dave in the chat and Matt on the stream.
Gotcha.
I like Dave in the chat. I can't hear him.
Now I was gonna say Printed Solid needs to develop a printer now, and they can call it the AED.
What? Say develop printer. Oh man. It should be called the Beat.
The
Yeah. Yeah, because you got the pulse and you got the beat. That would be funny.
Yeah,
When you
dude,
get a printer, it'll be all Dave's choice of what it's called.
just take an Ultimaker and paint it red.
Oh man. I don't want to pay the Ultimaker price though.
Yeah. That's if we developed a printer, we need it for the one that like when people walk into the store and want to buy a printer, they can walk out with. That's a
should,
thing to get from someplace in China.
What? Dad braining. I don't care. My head hurts. Go ahead.
Stop using your brain so much.
It's yeah. It's malnourished and out of practice.
I gotta figure out why Nightbot's like going nuts all of a sudden, banning people or timing them out.
What's going nuts?
Nightbot.
Nightbot?
Yeah, Chris said.
Did he finally become sentient?
Yeah. When Chris left, he said, "Have a good night, everyone. Have a great Thanksgiving next week."
Stop spamming caps.
Yeah, he said ACM, 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 all caps.
Oh, that's why. And then it deleted the one before that.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's his own fault. Don't do that.
Don't spam, Chris. Yeah, the only reason I enabled Nightbot is because of Martin finally attracted the first trolls to the Friday night hangout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Dang it, Martin.
Hey,
Yeah.
you know you're making it when you got a troll.
Yeah.
Dude, it was like boom, one right after the other.
Yeah.
Well, hey, we've made it.
Whoa.
Hey.
Yeah. We are famous now.
All right.
Wasn't the Catchy crew supposed to be here tonight?
No, they're at the movies.
They're at the movies. What movie?
I forget. They did tell me what they were going to see, but I forget. Kid friendly. Ari was with them.
Better not be Crimes of Grindelwald. If he wrecks any of that for me now, I'm gonna.
Well, I'm gonna text him and tell him you want to know all about it when he's out of the door.
I will find you, and heck, I mean, the original one or the first one was already ruined for me because of frickin' YouTube. I was just like searching YouTube, and I happened upon a video where it shows the ending of Fantastic Beasts, and I'm like, what? I'm like, the crap.
I'm gonna have to see that now.
Do you want to know how out of touch I am with like social media ruining movies or TV shows or anything? I'm just now watching Daredevil.
The first season?
And I don't know what to expect. I'm almost done with the first season, and I have no idea. Even though everybody talks about Daredevil, all I know is at some point he has a pair of nunchucks that go from a staff to nunchucks.
Yeah. Well, it's not really a nunchuck as it is more of like a little like a hit and then retract thing, like a whip, a tapper.
What's your weapon? I have a tapper.
Tapper.
Yeah, that's how like immune I am to it. I can watch the first season and still have no idea of what's actually going on.
Yeah, have you watched any of the other Marvel stuff on Netflix?
TV shows or like the
Yeah,
movie?
like Iron Fist, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, any of those?
No.
Oh man, don't watch the Defenders until you've at least watched season 1 of all of those, or else nothing will make sense.
Which one's Defenders?
Defenders is another
Another
series, but it combines all of them because they are the Defenders together.
Okay.
I watched The Runaways on Hulu. That was
What?
The Runaways.
I have yet to see The Runaways.
It is. It's pretty good. The first season's kind of weird, like the beginning of it is, but you get used to it.
Is the second season out?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think it's in a couple weeks.
Yeah, it's very soon, but I'm enjoying it. Like the first couple episodes, I was like, but then you start getting into it.
Did you read the comic?
I did read the comic. I think I have some of them.
I got hung up on an anime kick again.
That's where I'm at right now.
I had a friend recommend Attack on Titan, and oh god, I wish he hadn't.
I still haven't read that yet.
Oh, it's so like just the first episode of Attack on Titan, you WTF so hard.
Yeah.
And it's like one massive train wreck. It's a great show. I will give you that. It is a well done anime series, but it's so like what's the word?
It's brutal.
It's brutal. And it's like so smack you in the face at times that you just you can't look away and you're like, what in the heck?
Is it grotesque? Like
it really is at times.
And it's just weird too.
It is totally weird.
Yeah, you definitely need to watch it if you haven't.
Yeah, I definitely.
If nothing else, the first episode, but you won't be able to stop.
The first season is on Netflix, and then seasons 2 and 3 are on Crunchyroll.
Yeah, and Hulu.
Are they on Hulu?
Yep.
Dang it! I could have watched them in HD.
Without with commercials.
Man, well, that's true. I guess without commercials was nice on Crunchyroll. But the thing that sucks about it, so the last episode is episode 49, and it's like this huge climactic episode. Like from the beginning of the series to episode 49 is all leading up to episode 50, and it was announced not too long ago that episode 50 is getting delayed until 2019.
Oh my gosh.
So I was like watching it, not paying attention to the episode count. And I got to episode 49. I was like, yeah, let's get it. And it's like next anime series. And I'm like, what the? No. That's how addicting it is. Because, I mean, I was literally neglecting my child to watch Attack on Titan. My poor wife, she's like, you're not watching that stupid cartoon right now, are you? I'm like, I don't know if I'd classify this as a cartoon.
This is part of my life now.
This is way too adult to be a cartoon. I want to get back into Gundam. It's been a while since I've watched any of the Gundam series, so I think that's my next anime series. I'll probably pull up Gundam Wing again, revisit some of my old Cartoon Network days of when Gundam Wing was on Cartoon Network, and then Gundam Zero.
I don't think I've seen Gundam Zero.
It's a more polished Gundam, better animation.
Is that the most recent one?
No, heck no.
Okay.
But it looks crisper and fresher than Gundam Wing. Gundam Wing is very old school animation.
Right. That was the last one. That's the only one I've seen.
Yeah. And Gundam Zero is like more close to like what it would look, the blend of like computer animated and hand drawn still, kind of like the South Park feel.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I don't know.
More
They're both good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all basically the same thing. Big giant robots beating the crap out of each other. So I mean, choose your poison.
I recently went back to Evangelion. I've been watching that.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of my favorites.
You know what one I kind of miss, which was just really off the wall, is Big O.
Oh yeah, Big O.
Yeah, that one was just like the most random. I mean, it was along the same lines of, giant monster, giant robot, have battles, giant robot prevails kind of anime. Right. Everything fits into a nice 30-minute episode. But it was still like one of those things where he just goes, Big O, and then a train, and then big robot. And... Yeah.
Yeah, guys, I think I'm going to head to bed. It's 5:30 a.m. in the morning for me.
Why don't you sleep?
Martin, are you on the UTC line?
Yeah,
Wow.
Yeah, I'm at GMT 0, and I don't have like winter time and summertime and all that. So.
Oh, you mean daylight savings time?
Yeah. So I'm always at GMT 0.
Yeah, we hate that over here, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't have it here. It doesn't make sense, I think. Yeah, but I'm getting pretty beat up, so I'm gonna leave. So I'll just thank everybody for watching, and it was a good stream. Good information from Matt.
See you, Martin.
Yeah, see ya, guys.
Thanks for the trolls.
Thanks for the trolls. Go to sleep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Matt, I don't know if you've ever actually watched the stream past 12 o'clock, but yeah, everything goes off the rails at this point. So this is usual.
All right. I'm gonna take the opportunity to sign off as well. But thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us. If we come up with another topic again in the future that you're well versed in, be more than welcome to have you back on, or you can come on anytime you want.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
Yep. See you, Matt.
Bye, Matt.
Bye, dude.
You guys have anything you just want to talk about on the stream, or do we want to go ahead and just wrap up the stream for the night?
Let's see. Is there anything like hot in the community that we need to talk about? I mean,
there's stuff going on in the community, but
well, I know that, but we're not going to talk about that.
Okay.
I'm not that stupid. I was thinking more along the lines of like, so like, do we want? I don't really know. My brain can't function to talk fluently on anything at this point. I mean, I was like, what we could talk about Railcore, but then I'm like, I don't think.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know much about Railcore. I mean, I saw it at Murph last year.
I saw it, and
was that Railcore, or was that just because last year he had just his D1700 there?
Oh, that wasn't the Railcore? I thought that was.
This guy, hold on, let me get my other camera. Come on, you piece.
I thought that was the Railcore because Nick was just like going nuts over that at Murph.
Are we talking about the one that Joe had?
Yes.
Hold on. Let me get to my streaming MS Cam. Okay, this guy. Go the right way, Joe.
Oh. No, that's not it.
Yeah, this is the D1700. This is what Joe had at his booth last year at Murph. In fact, this is the exact one he had at his booth.
I mean, like, I thought he had another one as well.
He had the big brother of this one.
Oh, okay.
Which I can't remember what the model of it, but it was still part of the Daedalus series. Railcore is a partnership with someone else. I forgot who. But it's relatively new, and it is ridiculously crazy how that thing is hooked up.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes Core XY look like a, fourth grade math problem.
So, okay, so school me a little bit. What is... I really have not followed Railcore at all, to be fully honest. So, fill me in.
You know how, like, we have different methods of achieving motion. So we have our different motion systems. We've got our standard Cartesian, we've got Core XY, we've got Delta Kinematics. Railcore is a new breed of motion system. It still uses the standard Cartesian system of X, Y, and Z. It's just that the motion of the axes on X and Y. Oh, hold on one second.
Okay, so is the difference okay? So Core XY, you've got the belt-driven, essentially, system where like X and Y are driven by one belt or something to that extent.
For the most part.
Is rail core that okay? Basically, that your steppers driving the X are actually on the X axis rather than fixed. It's moving with it, kind of like a, let's say, like a camera slider that has a stepper mounted to it, and it's riding on the rail. Like, is that kind of the idea?
Can you see my screen here?
Yeah.
Okay, so look at the motion system on this thing. It's the belt system, and then it's got linear rails on the sides.
Okay.
So it's freaking voodoo magic the way that he figured out the math on this. Man, it's get. Specs, do I want blah 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 blah. I'm trying to see if he's got a better wiring walkthrough.
Yeah, I remember joining the Facebook group before because I didn't think he was going to sell it. I thought he was just going to open source it and then tell you where to get all the parts and whatnot. I didn't think they were actually going to sell it.
I think he does both because he talks about the price of it at this guy. Well, this is without the hot end. He's like, if you were to part out this printer, it'd be pretty much the same price.
Right. Yeah, Nick's building his. Nick's not building a kit. He's building his own, right? Basically from scratch, or based on a bill of material.
Probably. I mean, I can't explain this other than it
moves incrementally, like more. I don't even know how to explain it. It moves finer than like a Core XY. Like,
yeah.
It prints at a lower layer height at a slower speed.
The thing that still bugs me is how much belt there is.
There's a lot of belt.
There's a lot of belt, and with all that belt comes flex. And then, I mean, no matter what, kind of belt you're using, there's actually going to be a little bit of stupid brain.
Slop.
Not slop. There's a word I'm looking for. The tolerance between you with like lead screws, you have a chat, help me.
Eddie's
in there. Eddie, help. I would have called it slop.
He's in here, Eddie and Shane.
Talking about.
Oh gosh.
What is it called? Backlash. That's what I'm thinking of. Backlash.
Pitch. Eddie said pitch.
Pitch is the angle of the threads.
Right.
The backlash,
which is what I would backlash is the right term. I called it slop.
I would suspect at a given speed with this much belt, after a sudden stop, there'd be an expansion and slight compression then of the belt, and that would be backlash.
Well, and it probably wouldn't be as bad at first.
No, as the belt gets older, it's definitely going to get worse. But that much belt in and of itself, I think, is going to be, I don't know. I'd have to see long term. Here's the funny part about this.
And that's using GT2 belts?
I believe so.
Yes.
So they're probably not steel reinforced belts or anything.
Can I not zoom? Come on.
Can you get GT2 with steel cabling in them?
You can get, yeah.
Can you? Okay.
I've seen
if they have steel cabling, you wouldn't have as much backlash in it then.
Yeah, you can get them with Kevlar in it.
Kevlar is pretty sweet. There we go. Okay. You can see that they have anti-backlash nuts here on their threaded lead screw on the Z-axis, which doesn't make sense. I guess it makes sense if with auto bed leveling, if it's going to be really off.
Right. Well, the the nozzle adjusts to the bed, right? Or the bed adjusts to the nozzle.
The bed is on Z, so the bed's adjusting.
But I mean, like the bed actually levels itself. The nozzle doesn't come down and home. The bed levels is what I believed would happen.
Well, either way with the leveling, I mean, if there's compensation happening for an unlevel bed, then I could see, but even then, it's so slight. It's so very slight on the Z, especially with that heavy of a plate, that I don't understand why you need backlash nuts on the Z here.
Right.
I'm trying to follow that belt while you're zoomed in. That's kind of hurt my head.
Yeah, it's an Escher belt. It's an Escher painting here.
Yeah, no kidding.
I mean, it's like comes around, it goes around, comes around, goes around, comes around, goes around.
It goes up and down at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like this bottom one here attaches there. This top one here.
God, I didn't even see that bottom one.
Huh?
I didn't even see that bottom one.
Yeah.
Until you just said it.
So I mean, it's pretty complex as far as its mechanism, and it's very core XY-ish.
Yeah. I guess my biggest question is why.
Why not?
Why not? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's a piece of work. But
Jeff Goldblum put it the best way in Jurassic Park. They spent so much time figuring out if they could that they didn't stop to figure out if they should.
Yeah. That pretty much sums it up. At least what's running through my head.
I mean, it looks like it's a decent setup. So I mean, you've got a Titan with an E3, a V6, or you can actually get this with a Mosquito.
Yeah.
It's got a cooling blower fan on it. I mean, it's very much a hot end heavy system. I mean, the stepper's still mounted, and everything is on the carriage.
What's that Bowden tube?
This guy?
The Bowden tube at the top.
Oh, that's a filament guide.
Oh, is it? Okay.
If you look over here on this side, that's just where you bring the filament.
I see. Oh,
he did that on the D1700 as well. But the one that actually has me a little interested is this little Bowden tube here. You see it?
Oh yeah, I didn't even notice that.
Well, look how far down the V6 is. So there's the heat sink for the V6, and then there's the Titan, and usually the V6 slides into the Titan.
Right.
So there is a good almost 40 millimeters, 30 millimeters of PTFE tube between the extruder and the hot end.
That's interesting. I wonder why he did it that way.
To get the extruder up top above all this.
Oh, above the hole.
Yeah. It's basically one giant gantry.
Huh.
It hurts.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
But I mean, it looks pretty cool. It'd be one of those that would be fun to watch printing.
Yeah, I think that's kind of sums it up. It would be kind of like a Delta, like the appeal of watching it move.
Yeah, I mean that's
the most intriguing part.
I think you're pretty much spot on there. Actually, is this one belt or two belts? I can't.
Yeah, Eddie was asking if it's.
I think it's two. I think.
Yeah, I think
Oh wait, no, wait a minute.
Well, we have a connection here and a connection over there.
Right.
On the other side, a connection here and a connection over on the other side. So that would
a connection or just a pass through.
Where's that belt even going?
Which one? This one?
Yeah.
That one goes to the bottom down here.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay. Wow.
Let's trace it.
That's one belt.
There's one belt.
I lost something over here. Oh, that probably went over here, right there.
Yeah. Comes back around.
Yep.
So
Yeah, that's one belt. It comes in low, goes across the gantry, comes back, wraps up around the corners, comes back around X's, around to the other corner.
yeah, Eddie's spot on. This is very hypercubish.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I know that I know Joel has one that he's been playing with. I'd be curious to hear his take on it. Like, is it, you know, actually beneficial setup? Is it more of just cool to watch?
Like a novelty.
Yeah, like a novelty. I mean, is there any real benefit to this setup versus a standard?
Yeah, that was kind of my question. Like, can it print faster? Can it print lower? I mean, you're not going to get a lower layer height or anything out of it than you would anything else because it's still a lead screw for the Z.
Yeah, and the thing is that I would think that if they took the Titan off of the carriage and put it over where the filament guide comes in, if they made this an actual Bowden system, then they could get pretty good speeds out of it. But with the amount of weight over here,
that's a lot of stuff hanging on there.
Yeah, and that's a lot to drag around with just a belt. So
Eddie said the one belt should make more accurate moves, which to an extent I agree. But I mean,
accuracy, yes, but again, you're gonna start running into backlash and flex at a certain speed with this much weight that it's moving around.
Right.
Well, you're not going to be moving it at, you know, high speeds.
Yeah, he wasn't necessarily saying high speed accuracy. He's talking just accuracy in general, low speed accuracy.
Right.
Well, I mean, that was kind of the deal with the Hypercube, though, was the Hypercube was meant to be kind of like you know, put it together and print fast with it. Well, specific Hypercube setups, I should say. So Bowden Hypercube setups that I've seen, it's like a speed machine. They got those things going super fast.
Yeah.
But this guy would need to be kind of restricted given the weight.
Yeah.
And it looks like it's got, if I see this little red guy right here, that is the linear rail it's sliding on for the Y.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So it's got its X here, and then it's got a rail for the Y as well. And I wonder how that takes the weight since it's a single rail, or unless I'm missing another rail in there, which I don't think I am, but you would think that it would almost tilt on that rail a little bit.
Which way? Like lean, like it would be like top heavy, like it would go forward?
Yeah, like since it's not necessary, that's a lot of weight on this side. I mean, of course, the stepper is directly over the rail, which is a nice, you know, center of gravity for it. But then you've got the hot end, the heating element, the fan for cooling that. I don't know if they're doing that with the blower, and also the extruding mechanism all on this side, which is a decent span of distance given the, you know, in the grand scheme of things, that's a pretty large distance from that single rail.
Right.
They said they were using Ziltech rails, I think. Stop. And well, a duet, obviously. Ziltech, yeah.
Huh. Okay.
So, I mean, Ziltech linear rails aren't bad. I've seen worse.
Is that the same Ziltech as the filament?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, yeah, same manufacturer.
Is it?
Let's say it's got a Bondtech. What?
That's
I thought that was a Bondtech from the side view of it.
Where?
That didn't look like a Bondtech.
Zoom back in on it.
That's a Titan.
Oh yeah, that's a Titan through and through.
You're right.
So unless they're offering, maybe this is an older picture,
Maybe.
and they've got one, or they upgraded it to a Bondtech, which would add even more weight onto that side.
Yep.
Aluminum stepper mounts, 713 maker. Lenovo. Well, that's nice.
Oh, it has a well, yeah, you would have to have that to heat that massive frying pan on there.
Yeah, that's what, a quarter That's more than a quarter inch.
That's more than a quarter. That thing's thick. This is a quarter inch. I can't even pull it off. Anyway, that's.
What is the build volume on that? It's a 300 ZL. Not 300 cube.
There's very little information on here.
Yeah, but you'd think build dimensions would be like number one on the list.
I'm looking. It's not on there.
Eddie Moser said, if you use Maker Family at checkout from Zealtech, you get 15% off the products because he's using a Zealtech rail, I think on a CR10.
Yeah, I've been looking at Ziltech's hardware. They've got some decent prices on hardware.
Eddie, you think that's actually 300 cube?
Well, let's consider that might be a 7-inch display.
If that's a 7-inch display, yeah, I'll agree with that. I don't know. I guess just looking at that printer and most box printers, it just seems small, but you might be right.
Well, I'm looking at the D1700 that's next to me, and it's 300 by 300, and the stinking LCD on it is a 5.5, I think. So even if that's a 5.5, that's still a good chance that that's 300.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. I guess in the picture in that angle, it just seems small.
Probably 300 cubed.
That's where I got the 300 was from the 300 ZL.
Oh man, but yeah, so that's real core, and I don't know much about it unless there's something under documentation. No, there's not. Whatever. How did you guys? Did you guys get anything cool for Matter Hackers during the Blue Friday sale?
I honestly didn't even look.
I was debating, but I didn't get anything.
Yeah, I didn't either. I made a couple of sales. Someone actually bought a Pulse using my affiliate link.
Nice.
And they got the Pulse XE, so it was the big boy.
Oh yeah. Oh, they spent some change on that.
Yeah, that's
good for you, dude.
Awfully nice of them. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Eddie said he ordered his flex plate system for his MK2S.
Huh?
Eddie said he ordered the flex plate system for the MK2S.
Oh yeah, that actually all that build tax stuff on sale had me incredibly tempted. In fact, they're still going because they're Pacific time. I still might hop in and get a couple of extra flex plates and at least order the build tack PEI.
Yeah, I haven't. How thick is that? Do you know how thick that PEI is?
I think it's about as thick as the build tack sheets.
Okay.
The PEI that I have been using now that Matt is off, I mean, I've been using the printed solid PEI, and the last, well, let me show you. So on this guy here, I need to see my camera. This had
Build Tech's the same thickness as Gecko Tech. Yeah,
they keep them usually uniform for the most part, except for print bite. Print bite's like thick. So this guy here, if you can see that line.
Oh yeah.
That line. This did have a sheet of that PEI from printed solid on it, and I'm in the process of taking the glue off, which I gotta say this is the glue from hell. But so I had my nozzle just a little too low, and it scraped the PEI, and it ended up actually fusing the PEI to the glue, and so that's actually a line of PEI.
Oh, really?
Still on the glue.
Interesting. Huh.
Like the PEI surfaces I've used in the past were thick enough to where if it did that, it would have just tore a chunk out of my PEI, and I could have buffed it out or whatever. But I had to actually remove this sheet because it was so thin, which is sad, but whatever.
Just a sheet of aluminum.
I bought into the Gecko-Tech with maker boxes group buy.
Yeah, I think I have. Oh my gosh, I'm so slidey.
I cheated with mine. I took pieces of 26 gauge sheet metal, cut it to my bed size, and put the Gecko-Tech on that.
So I still believe that Gecko-Tech is the best surface to print nylon on. Garolite's nice, but so here's the MK3 Gecko-Tech plate. Here's their original HT flex plate. This is the one that was made out of like the sheet metal and not the flex steel. And then I have two of the non MK3 but the same material. So I'm a huge believer in Gecko-Tech's stuff. The only thing that I am not entirely thrilled about with Gecko-Tech is the longevity of it. So it, like, on the reason I can't use this one very much anymore is you can't really see it in here on the camera, but parts of the coating have actually peeled off with prints.
You know what? My very first nylon print on my Flash Forge took the coating off of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed if you use a scraper on it, it'll take the chemicals right off.
Yeah. Well, these are the flex plates, so I just flex them off.
Right.
But like on these guys here, they all have scars on them from previous prints. Like I can see where I printed brackets on this one. I can see where I printed an enclosure on this one. So any print that I do on top of this is going to show the marks of the prints before.
That's funny because my powder coated for my Mark III, I don't know if you can see it, you probably can't, but it does the same thing.
Yeah. How do you like the powder coated?
I'm enjoying it. Honestly. Yeah. It gives a nice finish on the bottom, or I guess top of the print, wherever you want to put it. You have to run it. You have to run the bed hotter to get things to stick. You have to soak it. You have to heat soak it pretty much.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I have against it. But I like it. I enjoy it.
Eddie asked if I had to cut mine down for the MK3. I got the one that was designed specifically for the MK3. It goes right on. All the other ones that I got, like these, well, that's the MK3 one. So these guys, I got them just like this, and I haven't had to cut them down. So I don't know. I don't know what one you got there, Eddie. The MK3 one I got from Printed Solid. It's got the notches and everything.
The Gecko-Tech MK3 you got from Printed Solid?
Yeah, the one that was
with the notches.
Built it. Yeah. And I mean, it's all interchangeable. So like, here's my build tack flex plate, and then the one that came with the Pulse has Garolite on one side, and then I put PEI on the other side. Okay. So that's the one thing I love about the flex plate system and the plate systems on the Prussias is all these plates are interchangeable because they're all pretty much the same bed sizes. So
right.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love this so much.
Yeah, it's great being able to swap it out whenever you want and do experiment with different things and not having to worry about ruining your printer.
Yeah, I've got my MK2S has the build tack flex plate base on it, and then I've got an MK2.5, so it's got the MK52 board bed on it, so it's magnetic already. Then my MK3 has the bed that's magnetic. The Pulse has the flex plate system base on it.
You can just swap out between any of them.
Yeah, I mean, literally, I was running on my MK2S. It's got the flex plate base, but I have been printing on the MK3 plate, the one that comes with the MK3.
Yeah.
So it's hanging off the edge of the thing, but I don't care. It still works great. So,
So you're buying all the flex plates. You're buying with a material on them. You're not buying flex or spring steel sheets, right?
So the Gecko Tech ones I am buying already pre-covered. All the other ones I buy and put the material on myself. So I just buy the flex plates, the extra flex plates for like $26, and then, huh?
Where are you getting the flex plate for $26? Like just the blank plate?
Matter Hackers.
Or Matter Hackers.
Yeah, pretty much anyone who carries a flex plate system should have extra flex steel sheets.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I figured you had to buy like the flex plate system. I figured you had to buy it with a material on it already.
No, in fact, the flex plate system, when you buy it, doesn't have any material on it. They send you a sheet of build tack. They send you the flex plate, and then they send you the base. And so you put the build tack on it yourself. And the really cool thing about the flex plates is you can put a material on both sides. So as long as you don't massively screw a flex plate up like this guy here, you can print on both sides.
I took my Gecko Tech. I didn't want to stick it straight on the glass on the CR10 or on the aluminum bed. Same way with the Flash Forge. I didn't want to do anything permanent to the printer. So I went to Lowe's, bought 26 gauge sheet metal. I haven't used it as a flexible plate, but I bought it with the intention of being able to interchange down the road.
Yep.
Like Gecko Tech, I really haven't even had a reason to have to flex a Gecko Tech, even printing a full bed's build volume on the CR10.
You just want the ability to swap out different build plates.
I want to be able to experiment. I've got 2 different materials that Robbie Mack gave me at Earth. That one I had on the CR10 and it was working great until one day I forgot to use the right profile and rammed the nozzle across it, killed it right off the bed.
Well, that's kind of what's going on. Like, so this is off the D1700, the Project R3D. So this is the 300 by 300 flex plate system. This is print bite, and this is build tack. I'm probably going to throw PEI on the other side of the build tack, and I don't know what I'm going to do with. I hate print bite.
Put some polycarb on there.
Huh?
Put some polycarbonate on there.
Yeah.
Could.
Although Gecko works with polycarb.
Yeah.
Polycarb works with polycarb real well.
Have you found anything that doesn't work on Gecko, Joe Mike?
Polypropylene.
Yeah.
Polypropylene. Well, yeah, that's like doesn't stick to anything but packing tape.
That's what did that.
Yeah.
And this is packing tape.
Yeah.
It's just this was the glass filled polypropylene, and it warped up to the point to where it pulled my packing tape off of the bed. So that's why I've got this mess. And when I pulled it off of the plate, there was tape melted into 3D print.
Yeah.
Whoops.
I'll have to tell you after we go off the air, the thing I passed up for a split second too long at Printed Solid last weekend. Sean, you know what I'm talking about. They had 2 of them.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
I'm kicking myself in the ass when I found out that he got the damn thing running with like 2 freaking parts.
Are you talking about a belt of some type?
No.
Okay. Well, never mind then. I was wondering if they had the printer bot with the belt.
No. At least I didn't see one. You didn't. The printer belt?
I didn't see a printer bot.
Or are you talking about a black belt?
No, the printer bot. Brooke had his belt printer there right before he hung up the.
Oh,
yeah.
Pooch got one.
Yeah, Pooch got one.
But I don't think he ever got it working.
Well, he gave it to Keith to try to get working, I think.
Yeah.
Where's Keith keep all these printers everybody gives him to work on?
His evil lair. Meanwhile, at the
at the printing hole.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah, I passed up on something for a split second too long. I finally made up my mind. My brother and I were going to go together on it and take a chance. I could kick myself in the ass.
So you didn't go with it?
I didn't get it. When I finally made up my mind and was going to get it, they were both gone. But
Man, they don't make a
$20 worth of parts, and it's working.
I'm curious to hear more about that.
Yeah.
they don't make a flex plate system for the simple metal, do they?
No, I don't think they make a flex plate system with that bed ratio.
Yeah.
I mean, you could probably get one of the really, really tiny ones and just, print on the middle of the bed without printing on the ends of the bed. But
Right.
Now, Keith has Joel and Pooch's printer belt.
good grief.
He has both of them?
Quite apparently, according to Tony Ryan.
I've got the simple Pro, the Metal Pro back there. I have yet to run it.
How long have you had that for?
September.
Oh, okay. I have one that's not built. I need to build it.
That was it was my birthday present to myself because I'd always wanted a printer bot, and I knew that with printer bot, shutting their doors,
Yeah.
that it was going to get more and more difficult to find one in new condition. So I hit eBay and found one for really cheap that was still new in the box, and I was like, yeah, I want one. If not for anything but prosperity's sake.
Absolutely. Yep.
Since they are such a large part of the beginning of the community. So
Sure.
I love to see, what Brooke does, but I will never forget Printerbot or Ubis. So
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely.
and I'm glad to see that Ubis is, taking up Printerbot support and has been posting a lot of documentation and helping a lot of Printerbot owners who have been having issues. They kind of picked up that mantle, which is awesome of them.
Yeah, that's definitely, they have a really great relationship, which is awesome as well.
Yeah.
It's cool that they, stepped in and were like, yeah, we're going to help.
Indeed.
Brooke's doing some good stuff now. I mean, he's always done good stuff, but I mean, he's still kicking and doing some stuff. So
Yeah, but it's just he's Printerbot.
well, yeah, of course.
He is Printerbot. Printerbot's Printerbot, but he is Printerbot, just
For
the
sure.
same as Prusa is Prusa.
Yep. Yep.
So I can't take away the association of Brooke Drum Printerbot.
Right. Oh, and it'll never go away. That's who he is. That's what he created that,
Yeah. And that he was such a powerhouse in the pushing things forward, Just,
Yeah.
It was a sad day when he posted the closing doors.
Yeah,
thing.
that was bad.
But I understand his reasoning with printers like Creality. It is really hard to keep up in this market as a manufacturer of $1,000 printer with a smaller build volume than a $350 printer.
Right.
Yep.
Absolutely. Especially you're paying back debt and whatnot.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You got all of the capital you invested into it. So yeah, you got to cut your losses and know when it's a losing battle. But the technology that he helped pioneer and the techniques he helped pioneer still are with us and help drive us forward still.
Absolutely.
I might be able to actually salvage this plate.
Sweet.
Huh?
No bubble grease.
I am rubbing it into boogers. That's literally the best method. You can ask Joel too. We both had to take the PEI off of our MK2s, and the Prusa instruction manual basically said, or the Prusa FAQ on how to get it off is take bed off, put it in the freezer, let it freeze, then peel off the PEI, and then put it in a bag with limonene, and then let it sit in the bag with the limonene, and then go to town with a scraper. Limonene is incredibly noxious
Yeah.
of a chemical. And so after I got it in the freezer, I took it out, removed it, and I just started rubbing it, and I was like, this will work. And it came right off, and it was clean. I rubbed it down with some rubbing alcohol, put the new sheet on.
Oh.
Good to go. And then I got the BuildTak Flex Plate series, and I was like, dang it. Whatever.
Yeah, with my Lulzbot Mini, I normally just take the bed off, put it in the freezer, and then I pull the PEI off, and then take a razor blade and just kind of go at it.
But the Lulzbot, you're not on the actual circuit trace though, right?
I think it is. That
Well,
whole
you shouldn't be to go into a razor blade with it.
That's what they say to do.
Really?
Yeah.
You're not supposed to expose those circuits.
Well, maybe it's not. Oh no, it's not. I'm sorry, I lied.
There's circuit traces on the bottom, isn't it?
Yeah, it's on the bottom. It's a piece of it's Barcelite.
That's what I thought, because I'm pretty sure that on the bottom of the D17 is a heater for a Lulzbot TAS 6.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, it's just a piece of Barcelite on top. Piece of glass. Sorry.
Whatever. Oh yeah, this one's gonna clean up nicely. I can throw another something on this one and use it, and I got another flex plate back in action.
Sweet.
Heck yeah. I don't know what I'm gonna put on it, but we'll see. Ooh, I love the smell of alcohol.
Oh, it's wonderful.
Oh baby. Eddie said I don't love the orange smell. I love the smell of oranges. I love citrus smells. That's like one of my favorite smells. But limonene is like orange on crack. And it's one of those things that you smell and you know that brain cells are just like dying. I mean,
Chris,
there's
you gotta use naphtha.
Do what?
Naphtha.
Oh, Zippo fluid.
Lighter fluid.
Yeah. That also kills brain cells. Pretty much any dissolvent kills brain cells. Dissolves adhesives and brains. Which I mean, it's got to be pretty tough to cut through that crap. But a little bit of elbow grease, and then rubbing it down with some isopropyl alcohol.
Yeah.
And there you go. See, I got another flex plate. That's the one that had that stupid tape on it. So.
Heck, that looks pretty good compared to what it did.
Got Pio Poly on the other side.
I love that stuff. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah, it rocks for PLA.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chris said, squirt the naphtha on and burn it off. Smell gone, goo gone.
Well, I'll let him try that first, and please, please, please document it on video.
Right.
All right. Well, maybe we should cut this off because it's almost 12:30 here, so it's almost 1:30 there.
Oh yeah. Ooh.
Yep, it is.
I gotta hit the hay.
Yeah.
It's past my bedtime.
All right, guys. Thanks for jumping on.
Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. This is great.
Thanks to everybody that's still hanging out in the chat. Mitch is back.
Mitch.
Yeah.
Back just in time for us to leave.
Yeah. What is Mitch doing up? He's in my time zone.
Tinkercad, according to him.
Huh?
Miracles in Tinkercad.
Oh, someone's a little full of themselves. Whatever.
See you, Chris. Enjoy your work.
Night, Chris.
Night.
Later.
Night, Eddie. So,
All right, guys. I'm going to take off.
All right. See
See
you. I'm
y'all.
going to cut the stream while Joe Mike's coughing himself out of his chair.